The first person to notice the bathroom was too small was Graham Bell, which was impressive because my sister had spent 20 minutes explaining how every inch of the house had been designed around him. He leaned forward in his wheelchair and tapped the blueprint with one square fingernail. "How do I turn around in here?" Vanessa stopped mid-sentence. My father looked at me. On the lower right corner of the blueprint, inside the box marked Design Approval, were Vanessa's initials, VM Blue Ink, a confident slash under them, like she'd signed a birthday card while already reaching for the cake. Graham's wife, Iris, adjusted her glasses. "And where's the breakfast nook?" Nobody answered. It was right here. Her finger moved across the paper. My father built it. Vanessa looked at me then, not at the blueprint, at me. That was how it always worked. She got the room, the praise, the warm little laugh when she used a word like flow. I got the look afterward, the silent family signal that meant fix this before anyone realizes who we are. My father cleared his throat. "Caroline can explain. I could have. I knew exactly what had happened to the bathroom, the nook, and the step Graham hadn't found yet. Instead, I folded my hands beneath the table. 5 weeks earlier, Vanessa had called me from a tile showroom to ask how many square feet were in a rectangle. "Is this a trick question?" I asked. "No. Why would it be a trick question?" "Because you work for a construction company. I work in design." I tucked my phone between my shoulder and ear and kept measuring the pantry wall in front of me. The Bell house had no air conditioning, and it was late June. Sweat had glued my blouse to my spine, length times width. I know that. "Then why did you call?" "Because one of the dimensions is in inches." I closed my eyes. Behind me, Iris Bell laughed. She was standing in the kitchen doorway holding 2 sweating glasses of iced tea. Iris was 61, compact, silver-haired, and possessed of the unnerving stillness of someone who had spent her career waiting for other people to stop talking. She had retired from counseling 2 years earlier and had apparently brought the listening face home with her. "Your sister?" she asked. I covered the phone. "How could you tell? She has excellent timing." Vanessa was still talking. "The saleswoman is waiting, Caroline." "What are the measurements?" 11 feet 8 inches by 7 feet 4. I did the math on the back of my field notebook, added 10% for waste, and gave her the number. "That seems high." "It's not." "Are you sure?" "No, Vanessa. I invented multiplication to embarrass you in front of the tile lady." Iris handed me a glass as I hung up. "You two are close?" she asked. "Geographically." That made her laugh again. The Bells had hired Mercer Renovations because Iris had seen Vanessa speaking at a historic homes fundraiser. Vanessa could make lime wash sound like a moral philosophy. She'd worn a cream jumpsuit, stood beneath a projected photo of a restored foyer, and talked about honoring the story a house was already trying to tell. I had drawn the foyer. I wasn't angry about the fundraiser. At least I wasn't only angry. Public speaking made my mouth go dry and my hands forget they belonged to me. Vanessa could walk into a room of strangers and leave with 3 invitations, a contractor's business card, and somebody's grandmother's pound cake recipe. She remembered names. She touched people lightly on the forearm when they spoke. She knew how to make enthusiasm feel personal. The trouble was that our father had started treating the ability to describe good design as proof that she had created it. Iris led me back into the kitchen. The Bell house was a faded brick colonial with deep windowsills, stubborn doors, and floors that announced every footstep like gossip. Iris had grown up there. She and Graham bought it from her mother's estate 12 years earlier after her mother moved into assisted living. "This is the part everyone wants to tear out," she said, touching one of the pantry doors. They were narrow, painted wood, each with a little recessed panel. Nothing rare, nothing an architectural magazine would photograph. The paint had been layered so many times that the corners looked soft. "My father built these when I was 9, Iris said. "He was not gifted. Good to know." The left door sticks in humid weather, and the shelves are all slightly different depths. A visionary. He swore they were level. They might have been. The house has moved. She smiled but kept her palm on the door. Can we keep them? Yes. You don't have to say yes just because I'm standing here being sentimental. I don't. We can keep the doors and rebuild the cabinet boxes. They'll look the same from here, but the inside will function. Vanessa thought open shelving would make the room feel larger. Of course she did. Vanessa had been in the house once, for 47 minutes, most of which she spent photographing the staircase. Open shelves also let you display every bag of tortilla chips you own, I said. Iris gave me that listening look. We'll keep the doors, I said. Graham came in through the dining room, moving carefully around the table. He had been using the wheelchair for longer distances for about a year, though inside the house he still preferred a cane. The arrangement wasn't working. Doorways clipped his knuckles. The downstairs powder room might as well have been a mailbox. Their bedroom was on the second floor, and the narrow staircase curved near the top. He disliked discussing any of this. "What are you two plotting?" he asked. "Your overthrow," Iris said, finally. I crouched to measure the clear space beside the kitchen table. Graham watched me stretch the tape. "I don't want the whole house turned into a hospital," he said. "We don't design hospitals. You know what I mean?" "I do." He nodded toward the dining room. "And I don't need every room changed because my legs decided to become unreliable." Iris looked down at her tea. That was the first moment I understood the real project. It wasn't simply a ground floor suite. It was a negotiation between what Graham needed and what he could bear to admit he needed. Iris wanted to protect him from the house. Graham wanted to protect the house from becoming evidence of his body. "So we change only what earns its keep," I said. "Wider opening here. Bathroom off the study. No dramatic equipment showroom. If something doesn't help, we leave it alone." He studied me. "You say that now. I'll put it in writing if you're difficult. I'm always difficult," I noticed. He smiled for the first time. I spent another 2 hours measuring, photographing, and listening to Iris tell me which quirks were beloved and which ones were simply annoying. The breakfast nook sat at the rear of the kitchen beneath 2 windows. Its benches were too deep, and its table had been sanded down so often that the edges were round. Iris's father had built that too. I took pictures from every angle. By the time I returned to the office, Vanessa had left 3 stone samples on my desk and a note that said, "Bell palette." The samples were white, slightly whiter, and white with ambition. Mercer Renovations occupied a converted auto parts store my father had bought when I was 24. The front half was our showroom, full of staged cabinet walls and lighting that made everyone look 10 years younger. The back held 2 offices, a drafting room, and a break area where the refrigerator made a noise like a distant lawnmower. The sign outside said Mercer Renovations. Underneath, in smaller letters, it said, "Thoughtful Homes." "Lasting Craft." Vanessa had written that. I found my father in the sample library trying to force a cabinet hinge onto the wrong display board. Dean Mercer was 64 and still dressed like every day might require an emergency trip to a job site. Work boots, khakis, blue button-down with the sleeves rolled twice. He had thick gray hair, a red face, and reading glasses he refused to wear until he had spent 10 minutes blaming the lighting. "How'd it go?" he asked. "They're a good fit for us." That's not what I asked. It went well. "Graham difficult? He has opinions." That's a yes. I took the hinge from him, found the correct slot, and snapped it into place. He frowned at the board. I had it. "You had a different brand. They make these things intentionally incompatible." "Yes, the cabinet hinge cartel is ruthless." His mouth twitched. That was the dangerous thing about my father. Even when I wanted to stay angry with him, he could make me 12 years old in under a minute. 12, standing beside him in an empty room while he showed me how afternoon light changed the color of a wall. 12, holding the dumb end of the tape while he called me his best helper. He nodded toward my notebook. "You get what we need? I got what they need. Same thing if we're doing our jobs." That was Dean at his best. He could say one sentence that reminded me why I had built my adult life beside him. Then Vanessa swept through the showroom carrying a long cardboard tile box and wearing sunglasses on top of her head. "Tell Caroline 86 square feet was too much," she said. Dad looked between us. "For what?" "The mudroom in Ridgefield." "What size is it?" 11.8 by 7.4. He took out his phone, turned it sideways, and squinted at the calculator. "You both know there are free apps for this," I said. Vanessa ignored me. The saleswoman said 79. "With no waste," I said. Dad finished tapping. "Caroline's right. I know she's mathematically right. I'm saying, aesthetically, it felt like too many boxes." Dad laughed as though this was charming instead of insane. Vanessa set the box on the sample table and kissed his cheek. "Bell House good?" "Your sister says yes. It's gorgeous, isn't it? Did you see the staircase?" "I saw it," I said. "I want to pull that dark runner and do something hand-woven. Graham needs the downstairs layout solved before we accessorize the stairs. I'm aware." She took off her sunglasses. Vanessa and I had the same brown eyes, but hers always looked brighter, possibly because she slept more. At 32, she had perfected a kind of polish that suggested she had just come from somewhere slightly better than where she was. Today she wore wide-leg green pants, gold hoops, and a sleeveless blouse that would have acquired 3 pencil marks before lunch if I tried it. Dad picked up one of her white stone samples. "This for Belle? Maybe the island. It has this soft, old-world movement. Their kitchen floors slope almost an inch," I said. "Let's solve the plan first." Vanessa's smile tightened. "Materials are part of the plan, not the part that determines whether Graham can get into the bathroom." Dad put the sample down. "All right, you two, don't start." "We're discussing the project," I said. "You discuss like opposing counsel." Vanessa opened the refrigerator, heard its mechanical groan, and shut it without taking anything. "Are we still doing dinner here Thursday?" "Your mother already ordered food," Dad said. That dinner was supposed to be informal. Iris and Graham would come by to see the first preliminary layout, my mother would bring baked ziti, and Dean would perform his favorite trick, making a client meeting feel like they had wandered into a family gathering by accident. It worked more often than it should have. "Can you clean up your desk before then?" Vanessa asked me. "We're trying to sell thoughtful homes, not a manifesto written by loose paper. My desk is in the back. Clients wander. Only when you give tours." Dad pointed at me with the cabinet hinge. "She's right about the desk." Vanessa grinned and stole the iced coffee I had left by the sample rack. I watched her take a sip. "That's mine. You weren't drinking it. I was in someone else's house." She took another sip, kissed the air beside my cheek, and walked toward her office. Dad watched her go with open amusement. Then he turned back to me. "Make sure she has something pretty to show on Thursday." I looked toward the doorway where Vanessa had disappeared. "I thought I was solving the house." "You are. She'll sell the solution." He said it like those were equal gifts. Maybe, once, they had been. I picked up my notebook, the one filled with Graham's turning clearances and Iris's careful list of things she couldn't bear to lose. "Sure," I said. "I'll make it pretty." The Bell layout took me 2 days and most of one night. I turned the downstairs study into a bedroom without making it look like a bedroom had swallowed the study. The bathroom fit into an awkward wedge between the old chimney and the back wall, but only if we moved a linen closet 6 feet and borrowed space from a hall nobody used. I widened the passage from the kitchen, kept the breakfast nook, rebuilt the pantry behind Iris's original doors, and found a route to the garden that followed the natural grade instead of announcing itself as a ramp. At 1 a.m, the whole thing finally clicked. That was the part I loved, not selecting pulls or giving a presentation. The moment when a house that had resisted me for hours suddenly revealed what it had been trying to say. I printed the plan and spread it across the drafting table. Vanessa wandered in at 9 the next morning with coffee for both of us. "Peace offering," she said. "For stealing my other coffee? For improving your attitude." She set a cup beside my elbow and leaned over the drawing. Her hair fell forward and she hooked it behind one ear. What am I looking at? The answer. That's humble. The bathroom fits. He gets a 60-inch turning radius, a curbless shower, and space beside the toilet without us taking out the chimney. She traced the new hallway with one finger. This jog is weird. It saves the pantry. Can we arch it? It's 38 inches deep, not a full arch. Just soften the top. No, you didn't even think about it. I thought very quickly. She moved around the table, studying the plan. For all my complaints about Vanessa, she wasn't incapable of seeing space. She just saw it first as a picture. I saw it as movement, where someone set down groceries, how two people passed in a doorway, which light switch you reached for with wet hands. Vanessa saw the view from the threshold. She tapped the opening between the kitchen and dining room. This should be wider. It can't be much wider unless we add a beam. Would it be worth it? Maybe. The sightline improves, but the cost goes up and Iris likes the separation. She thinks she likes it because it's what she knows. I looked at her. What? She said. People hire us because they want change. People hire us because they want the right change. She studied the plan again. The nook is eating half the rear wall. The nook stays. Did she specifically say that? Yes. How specifically? She put her hand on the table and told me her father built it. That's not the same as saying it can never be altered. It is, if you speak human. Vanessa rolled her eyes, but she smiled. You're mean before 10. You brought coffee. You knew the risk. She took the cup back from me, sipped it, then returned it. I'm going to put together the presentation, she said. Use the plan as drawn. I'm not moving walls. That was a suspiciously specific promise. I want to show them what it could feel like. That's fine. And maybe a version with the kitchen opened up. Fine. As long as it's clearly an alternate. It will be. She started toward the door, then stopped. This is good, Care. The nickname caught me off guard. She hadn't used it much since we were in our 20s and still sharing a bathroom at our parents' house. The garden route is smart, she said. Dad's gonna love it. I hated that the last sentence mattered to me more than the first. Thursday afternoon, my mother arrived carrying enough baked ziti to feed a touring production of Les Miserables. Linda Mercer believed every gathering required one more pan than the available surface area could hold. She came through the showroom door backward using her hip, with a foil tray in each hand and a canvas tote hanging from her wrist. Don't just watch me, she said. I'm coming. I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to your father. Dad stood 6 feet away with a bottle opener. I'm opening the wine. The wine isn't heavy. It has emotional weight. Mom handed me the larger tray and kissed my cheek. She smelled like lavender, hand cream, and hot car. Where's Vanessa? She asked. Lighting candles. Why? Atmosphere. Mom looked toward the front of the showroom. Vanessa was placing little glass votives along the staged kitchen island. Tell her not to burn the place down. You tell her. She thinks I criticize everything. She thinks everyone criticizes everything. Mom pulled back and looked at my blouse. Is that what you're wearing? I looked down. Navy cotton, clean, buttons functioning. I hope so. Otherwise, I've made an administrative error. It's fine. Thank you. I only meant you could borrow that green jacket of Vanessa's. We're not the same size. You're close. We're not. Mom's eyes flicked down again, an involuntary calculation I had witnessed since adolescence. I didn't mean anything by that, she said. I know. That was the problem with most things my mother said. She rarely meant anything by them. The meaning arrived anyway. We arranged dinner at the long consultation table because Dad said eating in the staged kitchen would make everyone nervous about spilling. Mom covered the table with a white cloth she had brought from home, which defeated the purpose of having a consultation table and made the office look like it was hosting a very small wedding. Vanessa came over and moved one of the ziti pans 2 inches to the left. Now it's designed, I said. You laugh, but it was visually heavy on that side. It's pasta. Pasta has mass. Mom touched Vanessa's earrings. Those are pretty, aren't they? They were on sale. You always find things. I started setting out forks. Dad came through carrying the printed presentation boards I had sent to the front printer that morning. He held up the floor plan and whistled. "There it is," he said. I waited. He rotated the board. "That backhaul solution is clean." "Thank you. Graham can get outside?" "Straight from the bedroom. No threshold." He nodded, running his thumb along the edge of the board. "There she is," he said quietly. "My problem solver." It warmed me before I could stop it. Then Vanessa stepped beside him, holding a material board covered in warm oak, muted green paint, aged brass, and the ambitious white stone. Dad's face opened. "Now that looks like a Mercer house." Vanessa beamed. My warmth went out so quickly it almost embarrassed me. The bells arrived 6 minutes early. Graham came in through the showroom's side entrance because it had a level threshold, and Iris carried a bottle of red wine despite Mom's repeated insistence over the phone that they bring nothing. "This is lovely," Iris said, taking in the candles, the covered table, and the staged cabinetry. "It's nothing," Mom said, which was objectively false. Dad took Graham's coat and nearly draped it over the back of his wheelchair before catching himself. Graham noticed. "It would improve the upholstery," he said. Dad laughed, recovered, and hung it in his office. That was one of his gifts. He didn't stay embarrassed. He let other people rescue him with humor and made them feel generous for doing it. We ate first. Dad said clients made better decisions when they weren't hungry, but I suspected he simply liked feeding people before asking them to spend money. Iris wanted the recipe. Mom began with, "Oh, there is no recipe," then recited 17 ingredients in precise order. Graham sat beside me. "I've been warned there will be mood boards," he said under his breath. "There's only one." Iris showed me photographs online. Rooms with bowls nobody is allowed to use. Our bowls are functional. Thank God. Across the table, Vanessa was telling Iris about a stone yard she wanted them to visit. She was good at that part. Iris had been guarded with me in the house, careful not to seem demanding. With Vanessa, she was already talking about how her mother used to line the pantry shelves with flowered paper every spring. Vanessa listened without interrupting. I watched her tuck that detail away. After dinner, Dad cleared the plates while refusing all help, which meant Mom and I followed behind him doing the work he was loudly claiming to do. Vanessa moved everyone to the presentation wall. She started with photographs of the existing house, not the flattering ones. She showed the narrow bathroom, the pinched doorway, the useless hall. Then she put up a picture I had taken of Iris's hand resting on the pantry door. I looked at her. She met my eyes briefly, almost asking permission after the fact. "This house isn't a blank page," she said. "It shouldn't be. The goal is to make it support the life you have now without erasing the life that happened here." Iris went still. It was a good line. More than that, it was true. Vanessa unveiled my floor plan. For the next 15 minutes, she walked them through it. She explained the new bedroom, the bathroom, the widened passage, and the route to the garden. She got one measurement wrong, and I corrected her. She thanked me easily and kept going. When she reached the pantry, she showed a rendering with the old doors cleaned but not refinished. "You'll still recognize every bump," she told Iris. Iris laughed, then put a hand over her mouth. Graham studied the bathroom. "I can turn around." "You can dance," Vanessa said. "Let's not oversell it," I said. He smiled. "She's the realist?" "My sister believes Joy should be code compliant," Vanessa said. Everyone laughed, including me. That was what made it confusing. Vanessa wasn't standing there twirling a mustache and stealing my work. She was making the work land. She had taken my plan and given it language Iris and Graham could feel. For a few minutes, we were exactly what Dad always claimed we were. Different strengths, one team. Then Iris walked closer to the plan. "This is so thoughtful," she said. "The way you kept everything without making Graham feel boxed in. You listened to all of it." She looked between Vanessa and me, but Dad answered before either of us could. "That's Vanessa," he said. He slid an arm around her shoulders. "Our real designer. Caroline makes sure all the numbers behave. Graham's smile faded slightly. Mom busied herself stacking dessert plates that were already stacked. Vanessa turned her head toward me. Her expression held apology, warning, and something dangerously close to hope that I would make it easy. I waited for her to correct him. She didn't. Iris looked at me. Well, the numbers matter too. Apparently they behave, I said. Dad laughed, relieved. The conversation moved on without me. Vanessa showed the material board. Dad opened another bottle of wine. Mom cut brownies into small squares and urged everyone to take two. I stood beside the plan until I could no longer look at my own lines. After the bells left, Dad locked the front door and said, "That could be the best presentation we've ever done." Vanessa began collecting glasses. "You did great," Mom told her. "I didn't do it alone," Vanessa said. It was quiet enough that everyone heard her, but vague enough that nothing had to change. "No," Dad said. "We're a family. Nobody does anything alone." I pulled the floor plan off the wall. Dad frowned. "Leave that up. I want the crew to see it." "Who drew it?" The question came out calmer than I felt. He stared at me. "What? You called Vanessa the real designer. Who drew this?" "Oh, Caroline." Mom's voice had the exhausted softness she usually saved for preventable scenes. Vanessa set down the glasses. He didn't mean it literally. Dad's face hardened. "I meant that your sister understands the whole picture. You're brilliant at making it buildable. I've always said that." "Buildable," I repeated. "That's not an insult. No, it's just what people say about the person whose work they put somebody else's name on." Vanessa flinched. Dad took off his glasses, though he had not been wearing them. His hand went automatically to the empty spot in his shirt pocket. "Don't ruin a good night because you need every compliment divided with a ruler." Mom touched my wrist. "Honey, you know how proud he is of you." I looked at her hand until she removed it. Vanessa came closer. "The plan is beautiful. I told you that. You did. So what do you want me to say?" The answer was so simple, I almost laughed. I wanted you to say it while they were still here. Vanessa stared at me, holding two wine glasses by their stems. "I did say it. You said you didn't do it alone." Mom made the ziti. Dad opened the wine. That could mean anything. What was I supposed to do? Interrupt him and list percentages? You could have said, "Caroline designed the plan." 5 words. Dad made a disgusted sound. "This is exactly what I'm talking about. Everything has to become a competition. You called one of us the real designer. It was a figure of speech. Then what am I the figure of?" Mom started folding the tablecloth with the pans, still sitting on it, which created a slow-moving emergency nobody acknowledged. "Dean," she said. "Maybe the wording wasn't ideal." He looked at her. "Don't encourage this." "I'm not encouraging anybody. I'm trying to get us home before midnight." It was 9:15. Vanessa set the glasses down. "Caroline, I should have been more specific. I'm sorry." Dad threw both hands up. "For God's sake." She turned on him. "Would you stop?" That surprised all of us. Vanessa rarely confronted Dad directly. She redirected him. She teased, flattered, or waited until his mood passed. Now color had risen into her cheeks. "She did draw it," Vanessa said. "Thank you," I said. "I also designed it." "I know." "Do you?" Her expression changed. "You make it really hard to apologize to you, and you make apologies do a lot of unpaid labor." Mom closed her eyes. Dad picked up the empty wine bottle and carried it toward the break area, although the recycling bin was beside his desk. Vanessa's mouth flattened. "Fine. You designed the plan. You solved the layout. You took the measurements. I presented it. Yes. And I landed the clients in the first place. Yes. I built the material palette. Yes. I spent 3 hours making those renderings feel like their house instead of a diagram. Yes, Vanessa. Then why are you saying yes like I'm confessing? Because she was. Not to fraud, exactly. To the habit underneath it. to collecting the bright pieces of our work and assuming the dull pieces had grown there on their own. But Dad came back before I answered. "We are not doing this in the middle of the showroom," he said. "The clients are gone," I said. "That's not the point." "What is the point?" "The point is we had an excellent meeting and now the two of you are tearing each other apart over who gets to wear the crown. I don't want a crown. Neither does Vanessa." Vanessa looked down at the glasses. I rolled the floor plan carefully, slid it into its cardboard tube, and pressed the plastic cap onto the end. Mom watched me. "That stays at the office, doesn't it? I'll bring it back tomorrow," I only asked. Dad leaned both palms on the consultation table. "You know how valuable you are, Caroline. Then say it correctly. I just did." "No, you said valuable." "A furnace is valuable. Now you're being ridiculous." "Thoughtful homes," I said. "Lasting craft." Vanessa groaned. "Don't make fun of the tagline." "I'm not." "It's very warm." Mom handed me a foil-covered square container. "Take this. I don't need it. You'll eat cereal for dinner." I'm 36 and still capable of eating cereal. I took the ziti because refusing it would turn the argument into a referendum on whether I loved my mother. That was another family specialty. Nothing stayed the size it began. Outside, the parking lot was still warm. Heat rose from the pavement, carrying the oily smell of the diner next door. I put the plan tube across the back seat and the ziti on the floor, where it immediately tipped sideways. Vanessa came out as I was fastening the lid more securely. "Wait," I kept working. "Caroline, what?" She stood with her arms folded against the showroom's yellow light. Without the presentation smile, she looked tired. "You embarrassed me in there." I straightened. "I embarrassed you?" "You waited until Iris and Graham left and then interrogated me in front of Mom and Dad. That's called not doing it in front of clients. You could have talked to me privately. You were there when he said it. So were you." "Yes, Vanessa, I noticed." She pressed her lips together. "I didn't ask him to call me that. You didn't give it back. It happened fast. It keeps happening fast." A car passed on the road behind us, bass rattling through its doors. Vanessa watched it until the sound faded. "Do you think it's easy for me?" she asked. I almost laughed, but something in her face stopped me. "Dad puts me up there," she continued, "and then you stand behind him looking like you know exactly how high I'm going to fall. I'm usually trying to calculate what I'll have to fix when you do. Right? That. You think I'm stupid? I don't think you're stupid. You asked me if calculating square footage was a trick question. You called me to calculate square footage because I was standing in a store with someone waiting, and I was crawling around a pantry. I didn't know that. You didn't ask." She rubbed her forehead. "I'm not you. I don't want to spend my life measuring closets. And I don't want to spend mine making your ideas possible so Dad can call you the visionary. I told you the plan was good. You told me in an empty room." Her shoulders dropped. For 1 second, I thought she might say the 5 words. Instead, she glanced through the showroom window. Dad was inside extinguishing the candles she had lit. Mom stood beside him holding her purse and speaking with quick, irritated movements. "You know he doesn't mean it the way it sounds," Vanessa said. There it was. The official Mercer family prayer. "I think he means it exactly the way it sounds." "Then why do you still work here?" The question landed cleanly. Vanessa seemed to regret it as soon as she asked, but she didn't take it back. I closed the car door. Good night. Care. I got in before that version of my name could do anything useful. At home, I put the ziti in the refrigerator and the plan tube in the corner beside my drafting desk. My apartment was 6 rooms if you counted generously, and 4 if you had standards. The dining area had become my overflow workspace years ago. Samples occupied 1 chair. A stack of supplier catalogs occupied another. I ate at the kitchen counter beneath a pendant light I had been meaning to replace since moving in. Mom called while I was taking off my shoes. I let it go to voicemail. "Hi, honey," she began, already sounding wounded by the machine. "I'm not calling to get involved." I sat on the edge of my bed. I just hate when we end an evening like that. "Your father is upset. Vanessa's upset. I know you're upset too. although you tend to get quiet rather than say what you're feeling. I looked at the phone. I wish you girls could appreciate that you bring different things to the table. Nobody thinks less of you. Call me when you get home so I know you're safe. I was home. She knew I lived 12 minutes away. She also knew that asking me to prove I was safe was more likely to get a response than asking me to absolve everybody. I texted, "Home." She sent back a heart. The next morning, Dad placed a bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich on my desk. It was wrapped in silver paper and still warm. "I already ate," I said. "No, you didn't." He walked away before I could decide whether breakfast counted as an apology. At 10, I met our site supervisor, Miguel Santos, at the Ridgefield project. He was in the mudroom with a level pressed against a stud and an expression that meant somebody had made a decision without consulting either of us. "They want the bench longer," he said. "Who?" He lifted his eyebrows. "Vanessa." She marked it with blue tape. The tape extended across a floor vent. She wants them to sit directly over the heat. Maybe they get cold while putting on boots. I pulled out my phone and called her. She answered on speaker. "Please tell me this isn't about 5 inches. It's about a floor vent." There was a pause. I didn't see it. That's why we use plans. Miguel inspected the ceiling. "Move the vent," she said. "We'd have to cut a joist. Then don't move the vent." Great meeting. I was there at 7 this morning, Caroline. The homeowner asked for a longer bench. And you said yes. I said we'd look at it. You marked the wall. It was tape, not a blood oath. Miguel made a quiet coughing sound that was suspiciously close to a laugh. Vanessa heard him. "Am I on speaker?" "Yes." "Wonderful. Good morning, Miguel." "Morning." "Make it as long as it can be without cooking anyone's purse." He nodded. "That I can do." After we hung up, he peeled back the tape to the edge of the vent. "She's good with people," he said. "She is. You're good with vents. I'm putting that on my business card." He grinned and handed me the tape. "Dad called while I was driving back. Conference room when you get in. About Ridgefield?" Bell. His tone had no bacon sandwich in it. Vanessa was already seated when I entered. My floor plan lay flat on the table, weighted at the corners by sample books. She had added translucent tracing paper over the kitchen and drawn a larger island in red pencil. Dad shut the door. "I want to clarify roles going forward," he said. I sat across from Vanessa. "That sounds ominous." "It's not ominous. Last night we had too many voices. There were 3 people from the company." "Exactly." Vanessa looked at the drawing rather than me. Dad continued. "Vanessa brought in the bells. She has the relationship and she gave the presentation. She'll lead the design side through client approval." I waited for the part where my role expanded beyond behaving numbers. "You'll prepare the drawings under her direction." There it was. Dad lifted one hand before I could speak. "This is not a punishment. What would the punishment version sound like? It sounds like you not being on the project." Vanessa looked up. "I asked for you to stay. How generous, see?" Dad pointed at me. "That attitude is why I'm doing this. Every time she offers an idea, you slap it down before it reaches the table. Her idea is currently drawn through the pantry wall." "It's tracing paper," Vanessa said. "And behind that wall is a chimney. I know where the chimney is. Do you?" Dad's palm hit the table, not hard but loud enough to stop us. "This house needs one clear design lead. Vanessa is it. You have more technical experience, so you support her. She listens to your concerns, and then she makes the decision." I looked at my original plan beneath her red lines. "Does she also get credit for the decision?" Dad leaned back. "We settled this last night." "No. You got tired last night." Vanessa slid a second piece of tracing paper toward me. "I want to explore opening the kitchen," she said. "Not because I'm trying to erase anything. Iris needs more light and Graham needs wider circulation. We can reuse the pantry doors somewhere else. The pantry isn't the circulation problem. It's part of it. And the nook?" She tapped the red outline of a longer island where the table and benches had been. "I want to show them what they're gaining." I looked at Dad. He met my eyes without blinking. Draw the option, Caroline, clearly labeled as an alternate. Of course, Vanessa said. I lifted the tracing paper. Beneath it, my original walls showed through like bones. Dad opened the conference room door. And let her finish an idea before you decide it's wrong. Vanessa began gathering the sample books. I stayed seated. What happens when it is wrong? I asked. Dad paused in the doorway. Then trust your sister enough to find out. What he wanted was not trust. Trust required the possibility that Vanessa might fail and the willingness to let the failure belong to her. Dad wanted me to prevent the failure while making her feel as if she had succeeded. I spent Friday afternoon drawing the alternate. I removed the pantry cabinet boxes but saved the old doors in a note marked for possible reuse. I erased the breakfast nook, widened the kitchen into the rear corner, and drew Vanessa's longer island. The open room did look impressive on paper. Light would travel from the back windows into the dining area, and Graham would have more open floor space. It also turned Iris's childhood kitchen into every expensive kitchen Vanessa had ever saved to her phone. I brought both options into her office. Original plan is E, I said. Open kitchen is B. Vanessa swiveled away from her computer. Her office had a rug, 2 framed fabric panels, and a ficus that survived mainly because I watered it when she traveled. Mine had a metal desk and a mug full of dead pens. She pulled option B toward her. This is better. It's bigger. Bigger can be better. That's not what our website says. Could you stop using my own copy against me? Never. She ignored option A and studied the longer island. Can we center the doors to the garden on this? Not without changing the exterior landing. Why? The yard drops 18 inches across that wall. The original exit is farther east because the grade is higher there. So we build up the landing. Then Graham needs a ramp from the landing to the garden. She took a pencil and drew a short line off the doors. Like that, that's a step. It's a landing, with a change in elevation at the end. We can grade the yard. We can, but that affects drainage, the retaining edge, and 2 mature shrubs Iris wants to keep. Vanessa put down the pencil. This is what I mean. What? I ask a question, and suddenly there are shrubs testifying against me. The shrubs aren't against you. You know what I'm saying. I sat across from her. I know you want a pair of centered French doors because they'll look good from the island. They'll make the room feel balanced. They'll make the exterior more complicated. Complicated isn't impossible. No, it's more expensive. The Bells have room in their budget. That doesn't mean we spend it fixing a problem we created. Vanessa leaned back. Show me the bathroom. I turned to the enlarged plan. She traced the angled wall near the chimney. This is still awkward. It gives him the clearance. What if we align this wall with the bedroom entry? You lose 8 inches inside the bathroom. Take them from the closet. The closet is on the other side. So shift both. Then the bed wall is too short. She stared at the paper as if it had chosen to be uncooperative. I hate that angle, she said. The angle has no emotional investment in your opinion. Can you draw it aligned? It won't meet the turning radius. I just want to see it. You can see it now. Imagine that line over there. She pushed the plan back at me. Draw it. The words sat between us. Not please, not can you. Draw it. I picked up the pages. Fine. And show the centered doors. With the step? With a landing. A landing Graham has to step off. We'll solve the grade later. I looked at her. What? She said. I'm making sure I heard you. I redrew it. I did not quietly widen the bathroom afterward. I did not move the doors back to the practical location while preserving the centered appearance on the rendering. I drew the aligned wall, dimensioned the clearances, and added a note beside the bathroom. Turning radius reduced. Client accessibility requirements not met. Beside the doors, I wrote, exterior grade transition requires ramp or regrading. I put the revised plan on Vanessa's desk before I left. She called me at 8:30 Saturday morning. Did you have to put those notes in all caps? They're drawing notes. They read as hostile. They're capital letters. I know what capital letters are. I'm relieved. I'm trying to present an idea, and you've put warning labels on it like a prescription drug, because it has side effects. She exhaled into the phone. I'm going to the Bell House. Why? To look at the grade. Do they know you're coming? I called Iris. I sat up in bed. You scheduled a site meeting without telling me? It's not a meeting. I'm looking. At the house. Yes, Caroline. That's where the grade is. I heard her car door close. I have the measurements. I want to see it myself. That was reasonable. I disliked how much I disliked it. Take the laser level from the supply cabinet, I said. I already did. Do you know how to use it? Goodbye. She hung up. At noon, she sent me 4 photographs. One showed the back wall. One showed the shrubs. One showed Graham's cane leaning against a garden chair, though Graham himself was not in the frame. The last showed Vanessa's shoe beside the drop from the existing threshold. Her message said, "You're right about the grade." A minute later, another message appeared. I still think centered doors are worth solving. I typed 3 responses and deleted all of them. On Sunday, Mom called while I was marking up cabinet elevations. Are you coming for dinner? I didn't know there was dinner. There's always dinner. That was true in the same way there was always weather. I have work. You work for your father. He'll give you the night off. I'm working on the Bell project. She became quiet. Is that still tense? It's a project. Projects are tense. Vanessa told me you're upset that she went to the house. I'm not upset she went. I'm upset she didn't include me. She's trying to take initiative. Did she call you to report her initiative? She called because she was frustrated. With me. She feels that you don't respect her. I place my pencil beside the drawing. Mom, do you respect what I do? What kind of question is that? A direct one. Of course I do. What do I do? She gave a short laugh. Caroline, don't quiz me. I'm not asking for my job description. I'm asking what you think I contribute. You make sure everything works. You handle all the details. Your father depends on you more than anybody. There it was again. Dependable, useful, necessary in the way a foundation was necessary, buried, load-bearing, and not part of the photograph. And Vanessa? I asked. She brings the beauty. I looked at the cabinet elevation in front of me. Every proportion, every sight line, every decision about where the old doors would meet the new frames. Right, I said. Don't do that. Do what? Get cold. I'm not cold. You sound exactly like your father when you're angry. It was the most effective thing she could have said. She knew it too. I have to work. I made pot roast. Save me some. You never come anymore. I was there Thursday. That was clients. And pasta. She sighed. I just want one meal where everyone is normal. Then you need a different family. She laughed despite herself. I'll put some aside, she said. Monday morning, Vanessa and Dad were in the conference room when I arrived. Option B covered most of the table. My warning notes had been concealed beneath 2 pale yellow sticky notes. I peeled one off. Those need to stay visible. Vanessa folded her arms. I know the concerns. The client doesn't. We'll explain them. When? In the meeting. Dad held out his hand for the plan. Let me see. I pointed to the bathroom dimensions and the garden note. He put on his reading glasses. This is conceptual, he said. It's being presented for approval. Design approval, not construction. Their approval is based on believing it works. Vanessa pulled option A from beneath a sample book. We'll have both. If they don't like the open version, we go back. They already liked A. They liked the first thing they saw, she said. That's not the same as making an informed choice. I looked at Dad. Which one are you presenting as the recommendation? He looked at Vanessa. B, she said. Then B needs the warnings. I will talk through the bathroom and the garden. And the nook? Iris said yesterday that she understands we may have to make sacrifices. What exactly did you ask her? I asked whether she was open to seeing a more transformative option. That's not asking if you can remove the nook. She said she trusts us. I could hear Iris saying it. polite, interested, unaware that trust had become permission. Dad removed his glasses. Caroline, the whole point of client review is to review, and if they ask whether Graham can use that bathroom, we tell them it needs refinement. It needs 8 inches. So find 8 inches. Vanessa aligned the wall after I told her what it cost. Vanessa's eyes flashed. Stop talking about me like I'm not here. Then answer. Where do the 8 inches come from? We could use a wall-hung sink, 3 inches. A pocket door. Door swing isn't the problem. Then I don't know yet. Dad spread his hands. There. Was that fatal? She said she doesn't know yet. It becomes a problem when the drawing tells the clients we do know. Vanessa took the plan from Dad. What do you want, Caroline? I want the original plan recommended. If you insist on B, I want a clear record that you selected it after I raised the accessibility and site concerns. Her face changed, the argument giving way to hurt. A record? Yes, I'm your sister, at home. Dad stepped between us, though neither of us had moved. That is enough. No, I said. You told me she makes the decisions. Fine. Then she approves the decisions. I went to the drafting room, opened our standard title block, and added a small box beneath the revision schedule. Design direction reviewed and approved by. When I returned with the full-size print, Vanessa looked at the box as if I had installed a witness stand. You want me to sign this? Initial it. We never do this. We do it on every project before construction. We're doing it earlier now because you changed the accessible layout against my recommendation. Dad's jaw tightened. You're being dramatic. I'm being clear. Vanessa picked up a blue pen. Do you want me to read every note aloud too? I want you to read them to yourself. She looked at me while she initialed the box, VM followed by a sharp blue line. There, she said. Now can we work? I scanned the signed plan, attached it to an email addressed to Vanessa and Dad, and listed the 3 unresolved concerns in the body. Dad watched me press send. I don't like what you're implying, he said. I'm not implying anything. The Bells meeting was scheduled for Thursday afternoon. I spent the next 3 days preparing exactly what Vanessa requested and nothing she had not. When she asked for a cleaner rendering, I made one. When Dad suggested I bring backup sketches, I asked which ones Vanessa had approved. He stopped suggesting it. 10 minutes before Iris and Graham arrived, Vanessa rolled the blueprint across the consultation table and smoothed the corners with her palms. Dad pulled me aside. Today, you let her lead. I know. If there's a question, give her room to answer. I will. And don't sit there waiting for her to make a mistake. I looked at the blue initials in the lower corner. I won't have to wait. Graham came through the side entrance in his wheelchair this time. Iris followed with a leather notebook tucked beneath her arm. Vanessa greeted them near the material wall wearing navy trousers and the expression she used when she wanted everyone to feel they had arrived at the good part. I'm excited about what we're showing you today, she said. Graham glanced at me. Should I be afraid when designers say excited? Usually, I said. Dad laughed too loudly. Vanessa led them to the consultation table. Option B was spread flat beneath the warm pendant lights. Option A rested on a credenza behind me, rolled loosely with a black ribbon around it. I had not tied the ribbon. Apparently, alternative plans needed costumes. We listened to your response at dinner, Vanessa began, and we realized there was an opportunity to go further. Iris leaned over the plan. Vanessa showed them how opening the rear of the kitchen would bring in more light. She described the long island as a gathering place and pointed out the wider route from the dining room. Her rendering made the room look calm and expensive. The old pantry doors had become a shallow cabinet near the entry, polished and lit from within. Iris touched the rendering. That's pretty. Vanessa smiled. And you still have the doors. The doors? Yes. I heard the distinction. Vanessa either didn't or chose not to. Graham rotated the plan toward himself. Where's the table? The island has seating. I mean the little table under the windows. We've opened that corner to improve circulation. Iris's hand moved to the bare spot where the nook had been. I thought we were keeping it. We absolutely can, Vanessa said. This is the bolder option. You said you were open to transformation. I said I was open to seeing it. Right, and that's what today is. We're exploring. She was good enough to make the answer sound reassuring. Iris nodded, though she did not remove her hand from the empty corner. Dad stepped in to praise the light and sightlines. He talked about families gathering around islands, despite the fact that Iris and Graham had never mentioned wanting anyone gathered there. Graham asked if he could reach the sink. Vanessa showed him the open space beside it. He asked where the microwave would go. She pointed to a lower cabinet. For several minutes, the plan survived. Then he reached the bathroom. He bent closer, followed the dimensions with his finger, and asked the question I had known was coming. How do I turn around in here? Vanessa stopped. She looked at me. Dad looked at me. Even Iris looked at me. But hers was not the same look. She was asking whether they had misunderstood something. My family was asking me to make misunderstanding sound intentional. When Dad told me to explain, I folded my hands beneath the table. Vanessa waited. Dad cleared his throat again. Caroline? Which part? The bathroom. What would you like me to explain? His eyes narrowed. Graham tapped the dimensions. Whether this works. I looked at Vanessa. You're leading. Her face lost color. Caroline, Dad said quietly. Vanessa pulled the plan closer. The fixture layout still needs refinement. Does that mean no? Graham asked. It means we're in design development. He glanced at me. Can I turn around? No, I said. The word landed without decoration. Iris looked from the drawing to Vanessa, but that was the main requirement. Yes, Vanessa said quickly, and it will be addressed. Why isn't it addressed here? Because this version explores a different wall alignment. We would adjust it before construction. How? Vanessa looked at the bathroom again as if the missing 8 inches might have returned out of guilt. We have options, Dad said. A wall-hung sink, shifting storage, different door configurations. None of those restore the turning radius, I said. Dad's head snapped toward me. You asked me to explain. Graham sat back. The room had become very quiet. From the break area, the refrigerator began its distant lawnmower noise. Iris returned to the kitchen, and the breakfast nook is gone. Vanessa's fingertips rested near her initials in the approval box. The original layout preserves it, I said. Everyone looked at me. Dad's voice dropped. Caroline. What original layout? Iris asked. I untied the black ribbon, unrolled option A, and laid it beside Vanessa's plan. Iris saw the nook first. Graham saw the bathroom. He moved his wheelchair closer, bumping the table leg. I steadied the plan while he compared the measurements. This one works? Yes. And the garden? The exit follows the higher grade on the east side. No step. He looked down at option B. There's a step here? Vanessa leaned in. It's a landing transition. We plan to resolve that through grading. You plan to? We were evaluating the best exterior approach. Iris pointed to the small elevation mark. He can't use a step. I know that. The sharpness in Vanessa's voice surprised her as much as anyone. She took a breath. I know, she repeated. I went to the house. I saw the grade. I thought we could create a more balanced rear elevation and solve the landscaping with it. Why? Graham asked. Vanessa blinked. Why what? Why does the back of my house need to be balanced? No one laughed. She looked toward the rendering. It creates a cleaner visual line. For whom? Dad placed one hand on the table. Let's step back. This is exactly why we present options. Design is a conversation. Then why are we seeing only this one? Iris asked. We're showing you both. Caroline showed us the other one after we found problems. Dad's smile stayed in place, but everything human had left it. There was a communication issue internally. I almost admired the speed of it. Vanessa turned to me. You could have brought up A when I started. You were leading. That doesn't mean you sit there. It means you make the decisions and answer for them. Iris closed her notebook without writing anything. I think we've seen enough today. Dad's tone changed immediately. Iris, we can revise this. The first plan you liked is intact. I'm aware. We haven't lost any work. She looked at the two plans. That isn't what concerns me. Graham rolled back from the table. I'd like to go home. Vanessa moved to clear his path, even though nothing blocked it. I'm sorry, she said. I should have explained this as an exploration, not a recommendation. Graham regarded her for a long moment. You explained it as being designed around me. She had no answer. I walked them to the side door. Dad followed, talking about scheduling another meeting. Iris said they would call after they had time to discuss it. At the threshold, Graham paused beside me. You knew, he said. It wasn't a question. Yes. His mouth tightened. I'm not sure if that makes me feel better. It shouldn't. He nodded once and wheeled outside. Iris stayed behind for half a second. My father built an ugly table, she said quietly. I know it's ugly. I don't think it is. You don't have to pretend. I'm not. She looked toward Vanessa, who stood beside the two plans with her arms wrapped around herself. We told you what mattered, Iris said. Then she left. Dad waited until the side door closed. What the hell was that? I turned around. Vanessa had not moved. Her initials were visible between her hands. A client meeting, I said. Don't. You told me to give her room to answer. You sabotaged her. I answered direct questions. After letting her walk into a wall, I identified the wall 4 days ago. You knew she wasn't prepared for that. I asked her where the 8 inches would come from. She said she didn't know. Dad shoved option A aside. The paper slid halfway off the table. So you decided to prove a point at the client's expense? I brought the plan that works. You hid it behind you. Vanessa chose what to present. Vanessa finally spoke. You enjoyed that. Her voice was low and unsteady. No. I saw your face when Graham asked about the bathroom. What did you see? You waiting. I've been waiting for years. She flinched as if I had raised my voice. Dad stepped closer. Whatever resentment you have toward your sister, you do not take it into a client meeting. Resentment didn't shrink the bathroom. You drew it, under her direction. There. He pointed at me. That tone, that smug, technical, accurate, cruel. The words stopped me. Dad seemed to hear it only after he said it, but he didn't retreat. Vanessa wiped beneath one eye before a tear could fall. You could have fixed it, she said. You could have adjusted the wall before today, and then what would your approval mean? I trusted you to make the plan work. I told you it didn't. You always say something won't work. That's how you control everything. Sometimes things actually don't work. You wanted me to fail. I wanted you to read the blueprint. Dad struck the table with his palm. Enough. The plans jumped. He took a breath through his nose, then pointed toward the drafting room. You're going to correct B, today. No. His hand remained extended. Excuse me, the Bells want A. You don't know what they want. They told us. They're upset. We give them a night, then we present a united response. I looked at Vanessa. What does the united response say? She stared down at the plan. Dad answered for her. It says we explored an option that went too far. We heard their concerns, and our team has already solved them. Our team solved them before Vanessa changed the plan. You will not put this on her. She approved it. She is your sister. At home. Mom had made that distinction sound cold on the phone. In the showroom, it felt like the only solid thing left. Dad lowered his voice. Family protects family. Who was protecting me when you called her the real designer? His face reddened. This is about that? It's about all of it. Vanessa grabbed her purse from the credenza. Congratulations, she said. You were right. She walked toward the front door. Vanessa, Dad called. She didn't stop. A second later, the door slammed hard enough to shake the sample wall. Dad turned back to me. You go after her. No, Caroline. I'm not going to comfort her because her decision belonged to her for 10 minutes. He stared at me as if I had become someone else in front of him. Maybe I had. He took the blueprint with Vanessa's initials and rolled it so tightly the paper creased. "Go home," he said. "We have Ridgefield selections at 3. I'll handle it. You don't know which. Go home." I picked up my bag. As I reached the drafting room door, he called after me. "You think being right excuses what you did?" I turned. The signed blueprint was clenched in his fist. My original plan lay crooked across the table. Beneath it, almost hidden, was Iris's photograph of her hand on the pantry door. "No," I said. "That's what you taught Vanessa." I made it 3 blocks before my hands started shaking. I pulled into the parking lot of a pharmacy and sat between a cart return and a minivan with a sunshade across the windshield. The air conditioning blew against my damp palms. My phone lit up twice in the cup holder. Dad, then Mom. I turned it face down. A woman came out of the pharmacy carrying a paper bag and arguing with someone through her earbuds about antihistamines. She unlocked the minivan, saw me staring, and gave me a cautious smile. I smiled back because apparently I could still reassure strangers. At home, I changed into shorts and scrubbed the kitchen counter, even though it was clean. I took the foil-covered ziti from the refrigerator, considered eating it cold, and put it back. Dad left no voicemail. Mom left 3. The first asked me to call. The second said Vanessa was safe at her apartment. The third said, "I'm coming by but don't feel like you have to entertain me," which was not a statement that allowed for refusal. She arrived 40 minutes later carrying the pot roast she had saved from Sunday. "You didn't come," she said when I opened the door. "I said I had work. And now, look." She walked past me, placed the glass container on the counter, and began opening cabinets in search of a plate. My mother had been in my apartment enough times to know where the plates were. Opening the wrong cabinets was how she expressed disapproval without wasting dialogue. "I'm not hungry. You have to eat. I had lunch." "What?" "A sandwich." "What kind?" "I don't have supporting documents." She found a plate. I sat on a stool while she cut 2 slices of pot roast, spooned carrots beside them, and covered the plate with a paper towel for the microwave. The domestic sounds felt obscene after the showroom. The scrape of silverware, the microwave buttons, the rotating glass plate, clicking once per revolution. "Your father shouldn't have sent you home," she said. I looked at her. "He was angry," she added. "So it doesn't count?" I didn't say that. The microwave beeped. She took out the plate, burned her fingers, and refused to admit it. "Vanessa is devastated," she said. "There it is." "What?" "The part where we stop discussing what Dad did and start discussing how Vanessa feels. She made a mistake. She made several. And you let the clients discover them. They were looking at the plan. Discovery was likely." Mom set the plate in front of me too hard. Gravy touched the rim. "You knew she would freeze. I knew she might. That's why I told her before the meeting. You could have helped her in the room." "I did. I answered the questions honestly. You waited until it was painful. It was painful before they walked in. It was just only painful for me." Mom pulled out the other stool and sat. Up close, she looked exhausted. Her eyeliner had smudged at the outer corner of one eye, and there was a pale streak on her blouse where she had brushed against flour or dust. "Your sister isn't as strong as you," she said. The words were soft. That made them worse. "So I have to stand behind her and hold up the scenery?" "That's not what I mean." "What do you mean? She takes things differently. You know that. Criticism goes straight through her." "And it bounces off me? You've always known who you are." I laughed once. Mom frowned. "Why is that funny?" "Because none of you know who I am. You know what I can carry. That's unfair. Name one thing I wanted this year." She opened her mouth. I waited. "You wanted to replace that light," she said, pointing above the counter. I looked up at the ugly pendant. "I've wanted to replace that for 4 years. Well, you're very particular. What did I want from Dad? You want him to value your work." "No, he values it. He uses it every day." Mom's face tightened. I wanted him to say it was mine. He is proud of you. Then why does everyone keep telling me that instead of him? She looked down at her hands. The silence between us had weight. I cut a carrot in half, mostly to give it somewhere to go. Vanessa called me from her car, Mom said. She was crying so hard I could barely understand her. I kept my eyes on the plate. She said you looked at her like you hated her. I don't hate her. She thinks you do. She thinks discomfort is hatred because you all move so fast to take it away. That's a cruel thing to say. Dad already used cruel. Pick another. Mom stood, carried her purse to the door, then came back for her keys even though they were in her hand. I love both of you, she said. I know. Do you? Yes. You just love us according to what causes the least trouble. Her eyes filled. I regretted it immediately. Regret did not make it untrue. Mom left without taking the pot roast. I ate 2 bites after she was gone because that was the kind of victory available in our family. At 6, Miguel called. I heard you went home sick, he said. Who told you that? Dean, I'm not sick. A pause. Okay, what's wrong? Nothing. Miguel. The Ridgefield cabinet delivery is tomorrow. Shop drawing has the bench at 9 feet 2. It can't be 9'2". I know. The vent starts at 8'7". I know that too. I rubbed my forehead. Did you call Dad? He said Vanessa handled the revision. Of course she had. A strip of blue tape had become a cabinet order. Can you shorten it on site? It's a finished end panel. If I cut it, we lose the edge. I pictured the mudroom, the vent, the bench, the homeowner asking politely why the wall did not match the sketch. Reject the delivery, I said. Tell them the approved field dimension is 8'6" and attach my site photo from Friday. You want me to copy Dean? Yes. You? I hesitated. No. All right. Miguel? Yeah? Don't tell him I fixed it. He was quiet for a second. That's going to be hard when I attach your photo. I laughed despite myself. Then don't tell him I asked you not to. That I can do. The next morning, I arrived at the office at 8. Dad's truck was already there. Vanessa's car wasn't. My key stuck in the side door, as it had for 3 years. I jiggled it upward, stepped into the showroom, and smelled coffee. Dad sat at the consultation table with both Bell plans spread in front of him. He had flattened the creased blueprint beneath heavy binders. A yellow legal pad held a list in his block handwriting. The crossed-out words beneath those were still visible. Caroline apology. He saw me reading. That was a note, not a decision. What was I apologizing for? The meeting getting out of hand. Did I shrink the bathroom with my mind? He took off his glasses. Can we not start like this? I didn't write the list. He rubbed the bridge of his nose. I told you to go home. It's tomorrow. I meant take some time. You told Miguel I was sick. I wasn't going to discuss family business with the crew. He had an incorrect cabinet arriving. I handled it. Miguel handled it. Dad's expression told me he knew exactly how. Before he could answer, the office phone rang. We both looked at it. The display showed Belle, Iris. Dad stood and picked up. Good morning, Iris. His voice changed completely. Warm, measured, concerned. Yes. Absolutely. I understand. He looked at me and pointed to the chair opposite him. I remained standing. No, she's here now, he said. Would you like me to put you on speaker? Iris hesitated long enough for both of us to hear it. Please. Dad pressed the button and set down the receiver. Good morning, I said. Good morning, Caroline. Her voice sounded formal. Graham was there too. I heard him say something away from the phone, then Iris continued. We discussed the project last night. We still want to renovate, and we still prefer the first plan. That makes sense, Dad said. We've already started incorporating your feedback. I don't think it was feedback. His smile tightened, though she couldn't see it. No, we gave our requirements at the beginning. The second plan ignored them. That's fair, Dad said quickly, and we take responsibility for that. I sat down. Dad looked at me. I think that's an excellent solution, he said. I almost admired him. And we would like her to present her own work, Iris added. No confusion. Of course. I stared at him. Graham's voice came closer to the phone. Is that agreeable to Caroline? Dad reached toward the speaker button as if he might accidentally disconnect the call. It is, I said, if my role is clear to everyone. A silence followed. Iris understood before Dad did. Everyone at Mercer? She asked. Yes. Dad's hand closed around his pen. That seems reasonable, Graham said. We'll send a revised scope, Dad said. Caroline will be your primary design contact, and I'll remain involved on construction. Thank you, Iris said. Then, more quietly, Caroline, are you comfortable with that? I looked at Dad. No one had asked me yet. His jaw moved. I will be if we handle it honestly, I said. Iris accepted that answer. We scheduled a meeting for the following week, and Dad ended the call with enough warmth to heat the showroom. The moment the line went dead, he rounded on me. What was that? The truth. You made it sound like I was pressuring you. You agreed before I did. Because I'm trying to save the job. I'm trying to save the design. They requested you. Fine, you'll lead. And you'll tell them I created the first plan. They already know. You'll tell the staff, too. His face changed. This does not need to become a public humiliation. It's not public. It's our company. You want me to announce that Vanessa failed? No. I want you to say I designed the project and that she changed the plan after I raised concerns. That is assigning blame. That is what happened. He pushed back from the table. I will not throw one daughter under the bus to satisfy the other. You already did that. You just picked the daughter who doesn't cry in parking lots. Dad stared at me. For once, he had no quick answer. I picked up the original plan and rolled it loosely. I'll continue with the bells on one condition. At the next team meeting, you correct the credit. In front of Vanessa, in front of everyone who heard you call her the real designer. And if I don't, I slid the plan into its cardboard tube. Then you can explain to Iris why I'm not managing the project. Dad leaned back in his chair. You're threatening me. I'm giving you a choice. No, you're holding the Bell project hostage. The Bells asked for me. You said yes without asking whether I would stay. You work here. That's what we're discussing. He stood and walked toward the material wall, then turned back as if distance might improve me. I can tell the team you're taking over. That isn't the same thing. I can say you developed the original layout. I designed it. You developed the design. I almost smiled. You can't even say it alone in a room with me. His face went red. The front door opened. Vanessa came in wearing yesterday's blouse beneath a long cardigan. Her eyes were swollen, though her makeup had been carefully repaired. She saw us and stopped. What happened? Dad answered first. The Bells called. Vanessa gripped her purse strap. They're canceling? They want Caroline to lead. She looked at me. Whatever I expected, anger, embarrassment, relief, her expression held all three. Okay, she said. Dad seemed offended by her agreement. It's not that simple. Why? Because Caroline has conditions. Vanessa set her purse on the consultation table. What conditions? I want Dad to correct what he said. Her eyes shifted toward him. About me being the real designer? Yes. And about the second plan. He needs to tell the team that I designed the plan the Bells chose and raised the problems before you approved the other one. She looked down at the creased blueprint. You want everyone to know I screwed up. Everyone already knows the Bell meeting went badly. They don't know why. Miguel knows the bathroom dimensions. Of course he does. What does that mean? It means you tell him everything. I tell him things he needs to build. Dad stepped in. This is precisely why I'm not turning a staff meeting into a family trial. No one asked for a trial, I said. One accurate sentence would do it. Vanessa pulled out a chair but did not sit. If I tell them, is that enough? Dad turned. You don't have to do that. I'm asking her. I met Vanessa's eyes. If you tell them, without turning it into a joke or an apology that makes me comfort you, yes. Her mouth tightened. You really think that's what I do? I think you say just enough truth to make everyone rush in and say it wasn't your fault. I approved a plan that didn't work. Dad put a hand on her shoulder. You approved a conceptual direction. She shrugged him off. I approved it. The correction should have satisfied me. Instead, it hurt. She could say it. Dad simply could not bear to let the sentence remain standing. Vanessa looked at me. You warned me. I thought you were doing what you always do. What do I always do? Find 10 reasons my idea is impossible before I've finished explaining it. Sometimes I'm trying to keep us from ordering a 9-foot bench over a floor vent. She stared. What? Nothing. No, what bench? Dad looked at the legal pad. Vanessa understood. Oh, that got fixed, he said. By Caroline? By Miguel. Using my field dimensions, I said. Vanessa sank into the chair. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then she said, I don't know how to do this if every mistake becomes proof I shouldn't be here. The sentence took some of the fight out of me. It doesn't, I said. It does with you. No, pretending the mistake didn't happen is the proof. She rubbed her hands together. I can step off Belle. That's not the point. What do you want besides the credit? I want the work and the responsibility to have the same name. Dad scoffed. That sounds lovely on a coffee mug. Vanessa looked at him. Why can't you just tell them? Because I'm not humiliating you to make a point. I'm already humiliated. You had one bad presentation. I approved a bathroom the client couldn't use. You're learning. She laughed, and it sounded close to crying. From what? You won't let anyone say what I did. Dad's face hardened in a different direction. I'm trying to protect this company. No, I said. You're trying to protect the version of Vanessa you sell. He turned on me. And what version of you do you think I sell? The tireless genius? The only adult in the building? You don't sell me at all. I have given you more responsibility than anyone. Responsibility isn't recognition. It is in the real world. In the real world, people's names go on their work. You think because you sit at a drafting table, nothing else counts. I never said that. You act like it. Vanessa brings in business. She manages clients. She understands what people want before they can articulate it. And I turn it into a house. Yes. The word came out angry. I waited. He realized what he had admitted and immediately tried to soften it. You both make the house. Then why is she the real designer? Dad looked away. Vanessa stood. Call the meeting. He shook his head. No. Dad. I said no. This stays between us. He picked up the phone, pressed the intercom, and told Celia to move the team check-in to 10:30. I looked at him. You just called the meeting. I'm announcing the project change. That's all. Then that's your answer. Don't be dramatic. Vanessa closed her eyes. At 10:30, Miguel came in from Ridgefield with dust on his boots. Celia brought a yellow notebook and sat near the door. Warren, our estimator, arrived eating yogurt from the container. 2 project coordinators squeezed in beside the cabinet samples. Dad stood at the head of the table. I sat across from Vanessa. The original Bell plan was still inside its tube beside my chair. The signed blueprint remained flattened under binders in the showroom. Dad began with Ridgefield schedules and an appliance delay. He discussed a roof inspection, a countertop delivery, and 3 invoices Celia needed approved. Every ordinary item made my condition feel more unreasonable. Maybe that was why he did it. Finally, he cleared his throat. Regarding Bell, the clients have decided to move forward with the more traditional layout. Caroline will serve as primary contact for the technical design, while Vanessa redirects her focus to business development. Technical design. Vanessa looked at him. Miguel looked at me. Dad continued. We tested a more open concept. The clients preferred the first direction, and we're adjusting accordingly. He turned the page. I said, Who designed the first direction? Warren stopped scraping the bottom of his yogurt. Dad gave me a warning look. Caroline, who designed it? You developed the plan. Did I design it? The room became painfully still. Celia lowered her pen. Dad folded his arms. "This is not the forum. You chose the forum." Vanessa spoke before he could answer. "Caroline designed the original Bell plan. Everyone looked at her. She also warned me the alternate bathroom didn't meet the clearances," Vanessa continued. Her voice trembled, but she did not laugh or apologize. "I approved it anyway." Dad interrupted. "Vanessa, that's enough." "No, it isn't," she said. Something passed over his face, not just anger, fear. He looked at his younger daughter as if she had stepped out from behind the glass where he kept her. "I said that's enough." Vanessa went silent. Dad addressed the room. "We're not doing blame. Designs evolve. Teams disagree. The important thing is that the client gets the right result." Miguel shifted in his chair. I looked at my father and understood that he would turn any truth into a group lesson before he let it attach to the person who needed to learn from it. "So, I'm the primary designer on Bell?" I asked. "You're handling technical design." "Primary designer. Caroline, yes or no?" His eyes hardened. "No one person is the designer. We're a team." Nobody mentioned that one person had been the real designer 6 days earlier. I stood. Dad's voice sharpened. "Sit down. No, don't do this. I'm resigning." Celia's pen dropped against her notebook. Dad stared at me. "You're what?" "I resign. Because I won't perform some public ritual for you. Because you just watched Vanessa tell the truth and stopped her." Vanessa looked stricken. Dad laughed once without humor. "You're going to throw away 11 years over a title?" "No. I spent 11 years waiting for the title to catch up to the job. You have no idea what it takes to keep this place running. I know exactly what it takes. You think clients are going to follow you because you can draw a bathroom? I didn't say that. What are you going to do?" The question found the fear I had been avoiding. I had no office, no active clients of my own, and no plan beyond the next breath. "I don't know yet." His expression changed when he heard the truth. He mistook uncertainty for weakness and pressed. "Then stop. Sit down. Take the weekend if you need attention." The cruelty was so casual that the room seemed to tilt. Vanessa whispered, "Dad, I picked up the plan tube. I'll prepare a handoff list and work 2 weeks." "No," he said. "If you're leaving, leave." Celia looked at him. "Dean, this is family business." Miguel stood. "We're all sitting here." Dad pointed at the door. "Meeting over." Nobody moved at first, then chairs scraped back one by one. I went to my office. My entire career fit poorly into a banker's box. I packed my license certificates, a framed photograph of a completed sunroom, 2 reference books I had bought myself, and the mug of dead pens. I left every company drawing, every client file, and the Bell plan tube on the drafting table. Vanessa appeared in my doorway holding my tape measure. "Dad gave you this," she said. I looked at the worn red casing. I had carried it through hundreds of houses. He bought it with company money. He gave it to you. Then he can decide what it was. She placed it in the box anyway. "Don't go," she said. I lifted the box. "You had a chance to let me stay." Her face crumpled. "I told them. And he stopped you. I can tell him again. That's between you and him now." She followed me to the side door. Dad remained in his office. He did not come out. I set my key on Celia's desk. She pushed it back toward me. "Make him ask for it." "I'm done making him ask." I left the key beside her notebook and carried the box outside. The sign above the showroom caught the sun. Mercer Renovations. My last name had never looked less like mine. I put the box in the trunk and drove home without turning on the radio. At the first red light, I realized I had left my coffee on my desk. At the second, I remembered I no longer had a desk. By the third, I was calculating how many months of rent I could cover without income. The answer depended on whether I planned to eat. I carried the box upstairs and set it on the kitchen counter. The tape measure Vanessa had slipped inside rested on top of my framed sunroom photograph. Its red casing was scratched. Dad had written CM on the belt clip in black marker years ago after Miguel accidentally took it to another job. I picked at the faded letters with my thumbnail. My phone rang. Dad. I watched it ring until the screen went dark. He called again, then Vanessa, then Mom. I turned the phone off and stood in my quiet apartment with a tape measure in one hand and no idea what Monday looked like. For 11 years, my days had been decided before I entered them. There was always a site question, a client revision, a cabinet dimension, a sample somebody needed yesterday. I had complained about never having time and built my entire identity around being interrupted. Now nobody could interrupt me. It was horrible. I unpacked the box. The certificates went on the dining table. The reference books returned to the shelf. I tested every dead pen in the mug and threw away 9 of them, an act of efficiency so pointless it made me cry, not dramatically. I stood at the sink with a paper towel under running water and realized tears were dropping onto my wrists. When I turned my phone back on, I had 14 messages. Dad's first said, "Call me when you're ready to behave like an adult." His second, 23 minutes later, said, "Celia needs to know where the Mercer Street finish schedule is." The third said nothing for several seconds. I could hear him breathing. Then, "You don't walk out on family." Vanessa's messages were shorter. "I'm sorry. Please tell me you're not serious. Dad is losing it." The last one said, "I put the tape in your box. Don't give it back." Mom left a 6-minute voicemail that began with shock, moved through grief, and ended with instructions for thawing the pot roast. I sat on the kitchen floor and listened to the whole thing. Celia emailed my personal account near 5. The subject line was employment information. Attached were details about my final paycheck, health coverage, and unused vacation time. Beneath the formal language, she had written one sentence. I wish he had let everyone cool down. It was the closest anyone from work came to saying he had fired me. I wrote back with the location of the Mercer Street schedule and a list of open items I had not had time to transfer. I copied Dad. I did not apologize. He replied 9 minutes later, "We'll handle it." On Monday morning, I woke at 6:12 without an alarm. For several seconds, I forgot. Then the ceiling reminded me. I made coffee, showered, dressed, and sat at the counter in work clothes. At 7:45, I changed into jeans because there was no reason to look employable in my own kitchen. Miguel called at 8:11. "I'm not supposed to call you," he said. "Then this is already going well. The Ridgefield homeowner wants to know why the bench is shorter than the sketch Vanessa gave her. What did Dean say?" He said, "Explain the vent." That's the answer. She wants to know why no one saw the vent before the cabinet order. I closed my eyes. "Did you send the site photograph?" "Yeah." "And the field report?" "Yeah." "Then they have the information." He was quiet. "What do you want me to do, Miguel?" "I don't know." That was honest enough to soften me. I can't answer for Mercer anymore. I know. If I keep solving things by phone, Dad gets to pretend nothing changed. I know that too. In the background, someone started a saw. Miguel lowered his voice. "You coming back?" "No." Another pause. "All right. You don't believe me. I've seen you quit 3 times. I have never quit. You quit every January. You say, 'I'm done with this circus,' and then you order lunch for everybody. That's different." "Probably." I smiled. "Don't let them put the bench over the vent." I was hoping you'd say that. When we hung up, I opened my bank account, wrote down the balance, and made a budget. I canceled a streaming service, an unused gym membership, and the automatic shipment of coffee filters I had somehow been receiving every 6 weeks for 2 years. By noon, I had saved $48 and destroyed my sense of security. Mom came at 1. She knocked this time. I opened the door but did not move aside. "Are you going to make me stand in the hall?" "I don't know yet." She looked past me. "Did you eat?" "Yes." "What?" "Food. Caroline. Toast. That isn't lunch." It had peanut butter. She held up my empty glass pot roast container. "Can I come in?" I let her. She put the container on the counter and looked around as if unemployment might have altered the furniture. "Your father expects you tomorrow," she said. "He told Celia to process my final paycheck. He was angry. He keeps doing permanent things and calling them moods. You said you resigned. I did. So both of you said things. I meant mine." Mom sat on the same stool she had used after the meeting. "He thinks you're trying to punish him. I'm trying not to work for him. To him, that's the same thing. That's not my problem. He built that business for you girls. He built it because he loves houses and hates having a boss. Caroline, it can be both." She ran one finger around the rim of the empty container. "Come to dinner tonight." "No. Vanessa will be there. Especially no. You haven't answered her calls." "I answered one text." "What did you say?" "I said I'm serious." Mom winced. "Your sister blames herself. She should blame herself for her part. She thinks if she hadn't signed that plan, none of this would have happened. If she hadn't signed it, I would have corrected it, and we'd still be doing this 5 years from now." Mom stared at me. I had not understood that until I said it. The blueprint had not broken my family. It had stopped me from quietly repairing the break that was already there. "Dad did this," I said. "Vanessa did some of it. I did some too because I kept agreeing. You make it sound so calculated." "It wasn't. That's why it lasted." Mom stood. Before leaving, she touched the red tape measure on the counter. "Your father was so proud when he bought you that." "I know. He told everybody you were going to run circles around men twice your age. Did he tell them I was a designer?" She withdrew her hand. "On Tuesday, Iris called my personal number. I almost didn't answer. Client contact belonged to Mercer, and I did not want Dad to have one legitimate reason to accuse me of taking anything. Hello? It's Iris Bell. Hi. I hope this isn't inappropriate. It depends what you're calling about." That sounded ominous. "I'm learning boundaries. They come out stiff at first." She laughed softly. Then she said, "Dean told us you're no longer with the company. What else did he tell you?" "That you left abruptly for personal reasons." I looked toward the dining table, where my certificates lay in a stack. I resigned during a team meeting. He told me to leave immediately. "I see. I can't discuss your project while you're under contract with Mercer. We ended the contract this morning." My grip tightened on the phone. "Iris, we did not do it because you asked. You didn't ask." "I know. Dean offered to assign a different designer. We said no." I sat down. "Have you paid for the completed design work?" "We settled the design portion. Construction had not begun, so we terminated according to the agreement." She sounded like someone who had spent the morning reading every sentence twice. "I'm sorry it came to that, so are we." Neither of us spoke for a moment. Then she said, "Graham and I would like to talk to you about finishing the project." My first feeling was relief so sharp it bordered on joy. My second was fear. "I don't have a company yet." "You have a phone." "That's a low bar. You have the plan. Mercer has the plan. I left every project file there. You made it. For them." Iris took that in. "What would you need to begin again?" "Everything," I thought. Insurance, agreements, a business account, software that did not belong to Mercer, consultants willing to work with one woman at a dining table, the nerve to put my own name on an invoice. Time, I said. And I would need to measure the house again. I can't use Mercer's files. We haven't moved it. I appreciate that. Come for coffee. Not a meeting. We'll talk. It was a meeting. We all knew it. I went Thursday morning carrying a blank notebook, my own laptop, and the red tape measure. Graham opened the door before I knocked. He was using his cane. "You came," he said. I said I would. People say many things, I've noticed. Iris had made coffee and placed 3 pastries on a plate. The plans were nowhere in sight. We sat in the breakfast nook. Iris explained that they wanted the first design, but they wanted to start over contractually and practically. Graham asked whether I could coordinate with a builder. I said yes, though I would need to find one not currently working for Mercer. I explained that starting independently meant I would be slower at first. "Will the bathroom fit?" he asked. "Yes." "Then you're already ahead." I gave them a fee proposal I had prepared using market rates instead of the discounted number I had almost talked myself into at midnight. Iris read it without flinching. "We don't want a family discount," she said. "You aren't family." Graham raised his coffee. Again, a head. They signed nothing that morning. They asked questions. I answered what I knew and admitted what I didn't. When we agreed to move forward, Iris shook my hand across the table her father had built. Then I stood and pulled the tape measure from my bag. Graham watched me extend it across the nook. "Didn't you already measure this?" Mercer measured it. He looked at the initials on the casing. "And who are you now?" I held the metal hook against the edge of the worn table. "I'm working on that." I measured it anyway. I measured every room, doorway, window, and change in floor height. Graham followed me for the first hour, reading numbers over my shoulder until Iris assigned him the more dignified job of making lunch. "You don't trust my measurements?" he asked. "I don't trust anybody's measurements. Healthy foundation for a business. I'm putting that on the website." At the downstairs bathroom, he lowered himself onto a dining chair while I checked the wall beside the chimney. "What happens if you're wrong?" he asked. "I redraw it. And if you don't catch it?" "The contractor catches it and uses language that damages our relationship." He nodded. "Dean never said he didn't know." I reeled in the tape. "Dad thinks confidence is part of customer service, isn't it?" "Sometimes. So is accuracy." "Which one are you selling?" I looked at the notebook full of numbers. "I'm hoping for both." The business began at my dining table with a legal pad divided into 3 columns: required soon and stop panicking. Insurance was required. A separate bank account was required. New drafting software was required, and so expensive I stared at the annual price as if it had insulted my mother. Office space went under soon, then moved to stop panicking. A logo went nowhere. For 2 days, I worked under a business name that existed only at the top of a document: Caroline Mercer, Residential Design. Typing Mercer felt like using something stolen. Deleting it felt worse. It was my name. Dad had put it on a building, but he had not invented it. I sent Iris and Graham a formal agreement on Monday. They signed it Tuesday and paid the first design installment Wednesday morning. The amount was not life-changing. It was slightly more than 1 month of my old salary and had to cover business expenses, taxes, and the fact that I no longer had paid vacation. I opened my bank app 6 times just to confirm it was real. Then I spent almost half of it. The independent contractor I called was Simone Alvarez, who had worked on a historic kitchen with us 3 years earlier before starting her own small construction company. Dad disliked her because she asked for decisions in writing and once told him his schedule was optimistic fiction. I liked her immediately. She met me at the Bell House wearing work boots and a black polo embroidered with Alvarez build. Her dark hair was braided down her back, and she carried a flashlight strong enough to expose personal failings. "You left Mercer," she said instead of hello. "I did." "You quit, or he fired you?" "Both, efficiently." She looked at Iris, who had opened the door for us. "Family?" "Family," I said. Simone nodded as if that answered everything. We spent 2 hours in the crawl space, basement and rear garden. She checked the route for the new plumbing, questioned my beam assumptions, and agreed that the east side garden exit made the most sense. At the breakfast nook, she ran a hand beneath the table. "This thing is crooked." "I know," Iris said. "Good. I didn't want to be the one to tell you." "My father built it." Simone looked at me. "We're keeping it," I said. "Of course we are." That was not sarcasm. She crouched, examined the benches, and described how she could remove them intact while the floor was repaired, then reinstall them with hidden blocking so they would feel less like a carnival ride. Iris's shoulders relaxed. The feeling in the room was subtle, but I recognized it. Trust did not arrive as a grand declaration. It arrived when someone asked whether a crooked bench could stay, and the answer did not make them feel foolish. Afterward, Simone followed me to my car. "You taking construction administration too?" she asked. "Yes." By yourself? Yes. You have templates? I have new ones. Consultants? A structural engineer and an accessibility specialist I've worked with before. Worked with through Mercer? Yes. Do they know you aren't Mercer anymore? I'll find out. She leaned against her truck. What's your fee? I told her. That's low. It's competitive. It's low. I'm new. You're not new. Your company is new. I disliked her for 12 full seconds. I already gave them the proposal. So don't make the next one low. I have to get a next one first. You will. The confidence made me suspicious. Why? Because I've built from your plans. She climbed into her truck and shut the door before I could decide what to do with that. Dad called that afternoon. I was in the parking lot of an office supply store holding a box of printer paper against my hip. The bell's canceled, he said. I know. How? Iris called me after they ended the contract. And now? The automatic doors opened behind me with a cheerful electronic chime. I can't discuss my clients. He went silent. It was a phrase I had heard him use hundreds of times. Coming from me, it sounded like an act of war. They hired you. Yes. You solicited a Mercer client. No, don't play games. I told her I wouldn't discuss the project while they were under contract with you. They terminated it. They settled what they owed. Then we spoke. You expect me to believe that sequence matters? It matters to me. You couldn't wait to take it. My grip tightened around the paper box. I left the files. I remeasured the entire house. I'm rebuilding every drawing. You took the concept. I created the concept for my company. And you were paid for the completed design phase. I'm not using those drawings. He breathed into the phone. You've had a business for 5 minutes, and you already think you're too good to answer a straight question. I answered all of them. Are you using my name? The question hit harder than the accusation. I'm using my name. You know what I mean. Unfortunately, I usually do. Mercer is an established reputation. Then yours should survive without me. He hung up. I stood outside the office supply store until the paper box began cutting into my arm. Mom called that evening. Your father says you stole the bells. I didn't. I told him you wouldn't do that. Thank you. But you can see how it looks. There was always a second sentence. I don't control how he tells the story. You could have called him before accepting. To ask permission, to show respect. He told me to leave immediately. He didn't think you would. That's not better. Mom lowered her voice. Sunday may not be a good idea. I was chopping an onion. I stopped with the knife halfway through. You invited me yesterday. Things are raw. For him. For everyone. Is Vanessa coming? She always comes. So dinner is only too raw for me. That's not what I said. It's what you scheduled. Mom sighed. Your father needs time. Then he can skip dinner. It's his house. There it was, plain and final. I put down the knife. Okay. Okay, what? I won't come. I don't want you to feel excluded. Then, this is a strange method. I'm trying to keep things from getting worse. Mom, things are worse. She became quiet. In the background, I heard Dad ask who she was talking to. No one, she said. The word traveled cleanly through the phone. She corrected herself immediately. I'm handling it. I ended the call before she could explain which part of me counted as no one. Sunday at 6, I made the baked ziti from memory. Mom's version had ricotta, mozzarella, parmesan, ground beef, sausage, crushed tomatoes, too much garlic, and one ingredient she always claimed to have forgotten when anyone asked. Mine tasted close enough to make the apartment feel empty. I ate at the counter beneath the ugly pendant. At 7:12, Vanessa sent me a photograph. Dad was asleep in his recliner with a plate balanced on his stomach. Mom sat at the edge of the frame, caught mid-laugh. The television showed a baseball game. The message beneath it said, "He's miserable." I typed, "Looks unbearable." Then deleted it. I wrote, "I'm not coming back because he's uncomfortable." She replied immediately, "I know." A minute later, "I miss you." I set down the phone. Missing her was inconvenient because it was mutual. I missed the way she stole my coffee and remembered every waiter's name. I missed having someone who knew that Mom's interesting meant terrible and Dad's will see meant no unless Vanessa asked twice. I missed laughing with her before I remembered I was angry. I did not reply. Work expanded to fill the silence. I redrew the bell house from my new measurements. I met the accessibility specialist who suggested a fold-down seat Graham initially hated and later admitted was sensible. Simone priced the garden work. Iris changed her mind about the green paint twice and apologized both times. "You're allowed," I told her. Vanessa made decisions feel more exciting. She's good at that. You make them feel serious. I looked up from the samples. That sounds terrible. It isn't. I know what I'm choosing. I tried to accept the compliment without making it compete with my sister. 3 weeks after I left Mercer, I rented a room above an upholstery shop. It had one window, beige carpet, and a bathroom down the hall shared with a tax preparer who was there only from January through April. The landlord called it a studio. Simone called it a closet with ambition. I bought a second-hand drafting table, 2 client chairs, and a lamp that leaned slightly left. I moved my certificates off the dining table and hung them with a level. The first time I put my key in the door, it stuck. I laughed so hard I had to sit on the stairs. Mom did not call for 9 days. Dad did not call at all. Vanessa sent small messages that required nothing from me. The Ridgefield bench fits. Mom says your ziti has too much garlic. The ficus is dying out of spite. I answered only the third. Water it. She sent a photograph of the plant sitting in her office sink, its leaves drooping dramatically. I did. The Bell project moved into construction planning. Simone introduced me to a cabinet maker, the engineer agreed to work with my company, and I received a second inquiry from one of Iris's friends about a kitchen consultation. Not a house, not a fortune, 4 paid hours. I charged the rate Simone had told me to charge. The woman accepted without negotiating. That night, I sat in my studio after dark, eating crackers from the sleeve while revising the Bell bathroom. The upholstery shop below had closed, and the building creaked every time the air conditioning started. Someone knocked. I expected the tax preparer or the landlord. Vanessa stood in the hallway holding the ficus. It was now brown along one side. "I think I made it worse," she said. I looked at the plant. "You drowned it. I was told to water it. Not continuously." She shifted the heavy pot against her hip. "Can I come in?" I should have said no. I had ignored her for 3 weeks with impressive consistency. She was still employed by Dad, still walking into the showroom beneath our shared last name, still benefiting from the story that I had abandoned everyone in a fit of jealousy. But her blouse had a wet soil stain across the front, and she was holding a dying plant as if it were a formal offering. I stepped aside, put it near the window. She entered, looked around my one-room studio, and went very still. "You really did it," she said. "Did what?" "Made somewhere Dad isn't." "That sounds peaceful," she added. "It's very quiet. It's very small." Also true. Vanessa lowered the ficus beside the window. Water immediately leaked from the pot onto the beige carpet. "Lift it." "What? Lift it?" She grabbed the pot again while I shoved a plastic sample tray underneath. "You watered this today? And yesterday? How much?" "A normal amount." "That isn't a unit." Until it came out the bottom. "Vanessa, you said it was thirsty." I said water it. "I didn't say reenact the flood." She started laughing. I tried not to. The ficus looked so offended that I failed. For a few seconds, we were bent over a dying plant in my ambitious closet, laughing the way we used to when Dad mispronounced a client's name and doubled down instead of admitting it. Then Vanessa saw the Bell drawings on my drafting table, and the laughter stopped. "They really hired you?" "Yes. Dad says you had it arranged before you left. He knows that isn't true. He says the timing is too convenient. Convenient would have been leaving with a business plan." She looked around again. My second-hand chairs did not support the suggestion that I had executed a sophisticated corporate theft. "I don't believe him," she said. "Good. I didn't come to accuse you." "Then why did you come?" She ran a thumb over a brown ficus leaf. It broke away and landed on the carpet. I wanted to see this. The office? You outside of Mercer. Disappointing? A little. I thought there'd be exposed brick. I have exposed plumbing in the bathroom. That counts. She sat in one of the client chairs and tested the slight wobble. Do people sit in this? Not the adventurous ones. You need a rug. I need revenue. A rug creates confidence. A functioning chair creates survival. She put both feet flat to stabilize it. I leaned against the drafting table. Vanessa, I know. Why are you here? She looked down at her hands. After you left, Dad told me to fix the Bell plan. I said nothing. He said if we turned it around fast enough, they'd stay. He wanted the bathroom widened, the nook restored, and the kitchen kept open. That combination doesn't fit. I know that now. She gave me a tired look before I could point out that she had known it then, too. I stayed until almost midnight, she said. Every time I moved the bathroom wall, something else got too small. I tried taking space from the bedroom. Then the bed didn't fit where Iris wanted it. I moved the door and it blocked the sightline from the hall. I thought about shifting the chimney. You cannot shift a chimney because it hurts your feelings. I figured that out. Good. I called Dad from the conference room. He said you'd come back in the morning and clean it up. A cold little silence formed inside me. What did you say? I said he had fired you. He told me I quit. He said you always calm down. There it was again. The family faith that my anger was weather and my labor was climate. Vanessa tucked one leg beneath her. I called Iris the next morning. Before they ended the contract? Yes. I told her I wanted to apologize and show her the corrected design. What corrected design, exactly? Despite myself, I smiled. She asked if you had made it, Vanessa continued. I said no. Then she asked whether you had approved it. I said you weren't there. What happened? She said that was the problem. I could hear Iris saying it in the same quiet voice she used to describe her father's table. Dad told me I shouldn't have called without him, Vanessa said. Then they canceled. So you came to tell me he was difficult afterward? No, because that isn't new information. I came to tell you that you were right. The words did not give me the satisfaction I had imagined. They made my chest ache. About the plan? About all of it. I looked away. Don't say all of it unless you mean something specific. I knew you were doing the real work. Her voice was low but steady. I knew the presentations weren't the same as designing the house. I knew you had already solved most of the things I talked about. Sometimes I didn't know how you solved them, but I knew it was you. I folded my arms. Then why did you let Dad call you the real designer? Because I liked it. No excuse. No immediate softening. She stared at the warped edge of my second-hand table. I hated it too, she said. The second he said it, I knew you were looking at me. I knew I should correct him. But Iris was impressed, and Dad was proud. And for 1 second, everybody saw me the way I've always wanted him to see me. And how is that? As somebody he doesn't have to make room for out of pity. I frowned. Dad has never pitied you. You think that because you're the competent one. Oh, please. There. That. What? The way you say competent like it's the prize and not the cage. I laughed, but she didn't. When I joined the company, she said, you already knew everything. You knew the crews, the software, the vendors, which clients paid late. Dad introduced you as the one who kept the place standing. He introduced me as our people person. You chose marketing. I chose it because every time I touched a drawing, you took the pencil out of my hand. That is not true. You didn't physically take it, then don't say I did. You'd stand over me and say, are you sure? Until I wasn't, because you weren't checking things. I didn't know how. You could have learned. From who? Dad told me I had instincts. You told me I had no idea what I was doing. I did not say that. You calculated square footage for me while making me feel like an idiot. You called me from a tile store because inches were involved. I know that was ridiculous. It was, but you enjoyed that too. I stopped. She met my eyes. You enjoy being the only one who can fix things, she said. You hate that we depend on you, but you also make sure we can't forget it. That is not the same as taking credit for somebody else's work. No, it isn't. The agreement disarmed me. Vanessa continued before I could rebuild the argument. I'm not saying we did the same thing. We didn't. Dad gave me credit that belonged to you, and I kept it. I'm saying you didn't exactly make it safe to admit I needed help. You needed help constantly. Yes. And every time I asked, you made me pay for it in sarcasm. I looked at the ficus. Its leaves sagged over the plastic tray. I was angry, I said. I know you would walk into a meeting, say the sentences I had given you, and come back with flowers from the client. I know. I would stay until midnight fixing the plan while Dad took you to dinner. I know. He put your name on presentations I drew. I know. Each answer was quieter. Why didn't you stop it? Because I was scared that if I corrected him enough times, he'd realize I wasn't what he thought I was. What did he think you were? Special. The word sounded painfully young in her adult mouth. She wiped at one eye with the heel of her hand. You didn't need him to think you were special, she said. You had proof everywhere. Houses stood up because of you. Contractors called you. Clients asked you questions. You think that replaced hearing it from him? No. I think I told myself it did. I sat in the other client chair. Mine wobbled too. Vanessa smiled through the wetness in her eyes. Great chairs. I'm creating a relaxed environment. We sat with our knees almost touching. I didn't ask to be the favorite, she said. No. But I accepted the benefits. Yes. And sometimes I made it easier for him to choose me. I waited. When a client liked something, I said I. When something went wrong, I said we. That's specific. I've had 3 weeks to think. Sounds exhausting. It has been awful. I laughed softly. Then she said, I'm sorry. I looked at her. I'm sorry I let him call me the real designer. I'm sorry I didn't say, Caroline designed the plan while the bells were there. I'm sorry I approved the other plan because I cared more about proving you wrong than checking whether Graham could use it. Her voice broke on his name, but she did not turn the apology into a request. I believe you, I said. Her shoulders loosened. That isn't the same as everything being okay. They tightened again. I know, and I'm not coming back. I know that, too. Do you? She glanced around the studio. You hung certificates with a level. They were crooked. You're never leaving. I might leave for a better office. But not Mercer. No. Vanessa nodded. What are you going to do? I asked. Tonight? With Dad? Oh. The word held more fear than her apology had. I don't know, she said. Ridgefield is nearly done. I moved myself off technical approvals. Did Dad? I did. Good. He said I was overreacting. Of course. I'm taking a residential planning course. I tried to hide my surprise and failed. You think that's stupid? No. You made a face. I was adjusting to new information. It's online. Tuesday and Thursday nights. There are assignments. That's generally how courses work. I knew you'd be like this. Vanessa, that's good. She searched my face for mockery. I mean it. I don't know if I want to design, she said. Not the way you do. I like clients. I like materials. I like building a story around a room. Maybe that's enough if I stop pretending it's everything. It can be a real job without being my job. Her eyes filled again. That's the nicest thing you've said to me in years. It was barely nice. The bar is underground. I nudged her shoe with mine. She nudged back. We did not hug. A hug would have asked our bodies to settle something our words had only started. Instead, I made coffee in the tiny machine on the file cabinet. Vanessa drank hers from a paper cup and criticized my lack of sweetener. She told me Dad had begun checking the front door every time it opened. I told her not to report on him. He misses you. That's a report. Sorry. And don't carry messages between Mom and me. She wants you at her birthday dinner. Then she can ask. She thinks you won't answer. That's her risk. Vanessa nodded. Okay. She finished her coffee and stood. At the door, she looked back at the Bell plans. Will you show me when it's done? I hesitated. As my sister, she said, not as anything else. Yes. She left the ficus by the window. The next morning, one of its leaves had dropped onto the carpet. I picked it up, watered nothing, and texted Vanessa. Coffee next Tuesday. No work talk. Her reply came before I set down the phone. Can I criticize the rug you don't have? No. Then what will we talk about? I looked at the Bell plan, the crooked lamp, and the chair that shifted beneath me whenever I leaned back. I typed, We'll learn. Learning began with 12 minutes of silence. Vanessa arrived at the coffee shop early and had already ordered my drink, which violated the spirit of 2 boundaries and the letter of neither. I remembered, she said, sliding it toward me. You remembered because you used to steal it. Exposure is a valid learning method. We sat near the window. Without work to argue about, we discussed the weather with the concentration of diplomats. Vanessa told me about a restaurant that had opened near her apartment. I told her the tax preparer had finally introduced himself and then asked whether I handled divorce cases. Maybe your sign is too vague, she said. You're not allowed to design my sign. You don't have a sign. Excellent. Then we agree it needs no changes. After another silence, Vanessa stirred foam into her coffee. Mom's birthday is Friday. I know. She's going to call you. Is that a report? It's advance warning. My phone rang on the table. Mom. Vanessa raised both hands. I didn't arrange that. I answered. Mom did not begin with food, health, or someone else's feelings. I want you at my birthday dinner, she said. The directness made me straighten. Is Dad going to be there? Yes. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. Does he know you're inviting me? Yes. What did he say? That is between me and your father. Across the table, Vanessa's eyebrows rose. I want both my daughters there, Mom continued. I won't ask you to apologize. I won't ask you to discuss work. I am asking you to come because I miss you and it's my birthday. That was the first invitation she had offered without hiding an assignment inside it. Okay, I said. Mom exhaled. Okay, yes? Yes. 6:30. I know what time you eat. You haven't been here. Mom. Right. Sorry. 6:30. When I hung up, Vanessa inspected me. What? Nothing. You have a face. I'm adjusting to new information. I kicked her lightly beneath the table. The Bell project entered demolition that week. Simone removed the pantry doors herself, labeled each one with painter's tape, and stored them flat in a padded rack she had built in the dining room. Iris watched the process as if we were transporting organs. They're wood, Graham reminded her. So are coffins. He considered that, not comforting. Once the walls were open, the house offered its opinions. The plumbing stack was 4 inches farther west than the old records suggested. A beam beneath the study had been notched sometime during the previous century by someone with confidence and a handsaw. The chimney foundation widened below the floor, stealing space from the route I had planned for the bathroom drain. Simone called me from the basement. You have good news? I asked. I have historical craftsmanship. That sounds expensive. It's shaped like a beaver chewed it. I crouched beside her flashlight beam. The notched wood looked worse the longer I stared. We shore it and call the engineer. We do. And the drain shifts. Probably. That shift moved the shower 6 inches. Moving the shower changed the grab bar blocking. The blocking pushed the recessed cabinet out of the wall. The cabinet had nowhere else to go, without reducing the clear space I had promised Graham. I sat on an overturned bucket with the plan on my knees. Simone waited. I was wrong about the cabinet, I said. You were wrong about a thing hidden behind a wall. Still wrong. Would you like me to call your family? I looked up. That's dark. I liked it. We removed the recessed cabinet, added shallow storage beside the bedroom entry, and preserved every required clearance. The change cost Iris and Graham less than the contingency I had built into the estimate. I explained it to them at their dining table. I did not call it an evolution or a conversation. I showed them the problem, the revised drawing, and the cost. Graham looked at the bathroom. Can I still turn? Yes. Then I continued to be very interested in the wall and almost completely uninterested in the cabinet. Iris asked whether the new storage would hold towels. It will hold towels if you don't buy them by the acre. She glanced at the linen closet upstairs. That may be an issue. The mistake did not destroy their trust. Owning it strengthened something I had spent years believing could survive only if I never made one. Friday evening, I drove to my parents' house with a lemon cake on the passenger seat. Mom had insisted I bring nothing, so I had baked badly out of spite. The center had sunk. I filled the depression with berries and called it intentional. Vanessa opened the door. You came. I said I would. People say many things. You stole that from Graham. I improved dialogue. She took the cake and peered beneath the cover. What happened? It's rustic. It has a crater. Put candles in it. The house smelled like rosemary and roasted chicken. Mom came from the kitchen, wiping her hands on an apron, and hugged me before asking whether she could. Her hesitation hurt more than the hug. Dad stood in the living room beside the fireplace. He wore a blue shirt with the sleeves rolled twice. For one irrational second, I expected him to ask me to hold a tape measure. Caroline, he said. Dad. Happy birthday to me, Mom announced. Vanessa carried the cake toward the kitchen. Caroline made geology. Mom followed, delighted by the chance to discuss dessert. Dad and I remained 6 feet apart. You look well, he said. So do you. He did not. He looked older. Nothing dramatic. No sudden collapse. No grand punishment. There were deeper folds beside his mouth, and his hair needed cutting. I heard Belle started construction. I set my purse on a chair. We said no work. Your mother said no fighting. She also said no work. She tells me very little these days. That must be difficult. His mouth tightened. From the kitchen, Mom called, I can hear both of you. We're being pleasant, Dad called back. Try harder. Dinner began carefully. Mom had assigned seats, though she denied it. Vanessa sat beside me. Dad sat across from us. Whenever conversation drifted toward the company, Vanessa redirected it so abruptly that we discussed 3 unrelated movies, the upholstery shop beneath my studio, and whether rosemary could be considered invasive. Dad asked about my office. It has a window, I said. Is that unusual? Mom asked. At my price point. Vanessa drank her water. Dad cut his chicken. You could have worked from home until you had more clients. I did. 3 weeks isn't long. I needed somewhere to meet people. You always did like overhead. The old instinct rose. Explain the rent. Justify the decision. Prove I had considered every expense. I buttered a roll instead. It's working for me. He glanced at Vanessa, perhaps expecting translation. She ate a green bean. Mom began telling us about a woman at her book club who had brought a thriller when the assigned novel was historical fiction. The story lasted through dinner and most of the salad. We sang to her over the sunken cake. The candles leaned toward one another in the crater. Mom laughed so hard she had to wipe her eyes. For 10 minutes, we were normal. Then Dad offered coffee. Mom and Vanessa cleared plates. I carried the cake into the kitchen and found Vanessa wrapping leftover chicken. He wants to talk to you, she said. He's had 2 hours. He wants to talk without Mom listening. Why? She keeps correcting him. That's new. Vanessa pressed foil around a plate. I told him what I told you. My hand stopped on the cake cover. All of it? Not every sentence. What did he say? That you've poisoned me against him. Efficient. I told him I had thoughts before visiting your office. Dangerous precedent. She smiled, then turned serious. He thinks you left because he used the wrong word. He needs to think that. I know. Dad appeared in the kitchen doorway. Can I speak to Caroline? Mom looked up from the sink. You can speak here. Linda. No closed-door ambushes on my birthday. He looked at her, surprised. She returned to washing a plate, hands shaking slightly beneath the water. Dad pulled out a chair and sat. I remained standing. "I handled the Bell situation badly," he said. It was not an apology, but it was the first sentence that had approached one without reversing direction. Yes. I shouldn't have called Vanessa the real designer. Vanessa went still beside the counter. "I was proud of the presentation," he continued. I spoke carelessly. "It wasn't one sentence. I understand that's how you see it." "Mom shut off the water," Dad corrected himself. "It wasn't one sentence." I sat across from him. He folded his hands on the table. "When you were young, you always knew what you wanted. You wanted to come to job sites. You wanted drafting software. You wanted responsibility before you were ready for it. I remember. Vanessa didn't know where she fit." "I was sitting right here," Vanessa said. "I know. Then stop talking about me like I'm a difficult room." Dad looked at her, hurt. "You struggled," he said. "I changed careers at 25. That isn't a medical condition. You needed encouragement. And Caroline didn't." He turned back to me. "You never seemed to." "Because I didn't cry, because you were good." The answer was so absurd I nearly missed how honest it was. "You rewarded me for being good by pretending it came naturally. I gave you the hardest projects. You gave me work. I gave you my trust. Privately." He rubbed one thumb across his knuckle. "Vanessa needed people to believe in her. And I didn't? You had that in yourself." "No, Dad." I learned not to ask. His eyes flashed. What was I supposed to do? Applaud every plan? Tell you every day that you were talented? Once would have helped. Mom sat down beside him. He looked genuinely lost. "You never needed all that," he said. She did. Vanessa closed her eyes. I felt the sentence enter every empty place I had spent years pretending wasn't there. "So you spent my confidence to pay for hers." Dad flinched. "That's not fair. It's exact. I depended on you. You hid behind that word. I built a company you could have someday." There it was. Not a gift, not a promise, but the future he had assumed would excuse the present. "I wanted a father," I said. "You kept offering me more work." His face changed. Mom reached for his arm, then stopped herself. "I thought you liked being needed," he said. "I did. That's how you trained me." Vanessa made a small sound. Dad looked at both of us. "I was trying to keep you together." "No," Vanessa said. "You kept putting us in a race and telling us it was a partnership. I never did that. You did every time you praised me for something she made. And every time you sent her to rescue me," I added. Mom spoke quietly. "I did that too." We looked at her. She twisted a corner of her napkin. "I knew Caroline would recover," she said. "I thought if one of you could absorb it, then everybody could move on." "Everybody except me," I said. "Yes." The word cost her something. Dad pushed his chair back and stood. "I don't know what you want from me." "For tonight?" I said. "Nothing." "Then why are we doing this?" "Because not everything painful is a transaction." He walked into the living room. Mom began crying soundlessly. Vanessa moved toward her, then paused and looked at me. I nodded. She sat beside Mom and held her hand. I packed the damaged cake into its carrier. At the front door, Dad stood with his back to me. "Belle will be beautiful," he said. It was the closest he had ever come to complimenting the work without claiming part of it. "I know," I said. He turned. I drove past the house. The admission irritated me until I saw his face. "You shouldn't go there." I stayed in the truck. "That doesn't make it better." "No." He put his hands in his pockets. "I don't know how to fix this. Start by not asking me to make it easier." He nodded once. I left with half a cratered cake and no invitation to return to Mercer. For the first time, that felt less like loss than space. 3 months later, Iris's pantry doors went back onto their new cabinet boxes. Simone called me into the kitchen before the hardware was installed. "Moment of truth," she said. Iris stood near the window. Graham waited in the widened doorway in his wheelchair. The left door stuck when I pulled it. Iris put one hand over her mouth. Simone frowned. "I can plane that." No, Iris said, please don't. She opened it herself, giving the familiar little lift at the handle. The door cleared the frame. That's right, she whispered. Graham rolled into the new kitchen, turned easily between the island and the nook, and headed toward the garden. No step interrupted him. At the end of the day, Iris asked whether we would come for dinner when the house was finished. Everyone who helped, she said. Simone accepted before I could answer. Iris smiled at me. You can invite your sister if you want. I looked at the pantry doors, the accessible hallway, and the breakfast nook waiting for its refinished table. This home held the parts of the past that still deserved a place. I do, I said. I invited Vanessa before I could turn it into a test. Dinner at Bell's Friday. Iris asked me to invite you. Her reply came a minute later. Just me? Just you? Okay. No hurt punctuation. No attempt to negotiate Mom into a client's home or convince me Dad deserved to see the finished house. She simply asked what time and whether Iris drank white wine. The next afternoon, Dad appeared at my studio. He knocked on the open door frame and waited in the hall until I told him to enter. That was new. He looked around slowly. The ficus had survived Vanessa's care and developed 2 small green leaves. I had added shelves, a narrow rug, and vinyl lettering to the glass beside the door. Caroline Mercer Residential Design. Dad read it twice. You used the full name. It fits on the door. He nodded toward the rug. Vanessa picked that? No, it looks like her. I'll return it immediately. His mouth moved, almost a smile. He sat in the less wobbly client chair. I remained behind the drafting table. What brings you here? I wanted to talk. About the future. That sounds like work. It is partly work. Then I'm probably not interested. He looked at the Bell photographs pinned above my table. The rebuilt pantry, the wide passage, Graham testing the garden threshold. I was wrong, he said. I waited. Not about everything. Careful. You almost became somebody else. He gave me a tired look. I was wrong to keep your role vague. I thought responsibility spoke for itself. It spoke. It said I would fix whatever everybody else broke. I understand that now. Do you? Vanessa has become extremely articulate on the subject. I could imagine it. She had always been able to find language once she stopped using it to decorate the truth. Dad took a folded sheet of paper from his pocket, then seemed to reconsider and left it folded in his hand. I've been thinking about the company sign. I looked at him. Mercer Renovations doesn't say what we do anymore. I could change it to Mercer Daughters. Your name and Vanessa's beneath it. Design and client development. The offer would once have broken me open. For years, I had pictured my name on that building as proof that I belonged to what I had helped build. Now Dad sat in my own office, offering equal billing as if the problem had been an uneven font. Vanessa doesn't want to be listed as a designer, I said. She told me, and you heard her, eventually. What would my role be? You'd run design, full authority. We'd hire another drafter under you. And when you disagreed with me, we'd discuss it. That isn't an answer. He unfolded the paper. It was a printer mock-up of the proposed sign. My name appeared beneath his. Caroline Mercer, Design Director. He placed it on the table. You wanted your name on your work. I wanted you to recognize my work. This is recognition. It's a recruitment offer. His shoulders dropped. What would count? An apology that doesn't require me to come back. He looked at the mock-up. I'm sorry I gave Vanessa credit for your work. The sentence emerged slowly, but he did not choke on it. I'm sorry I treated you like needing appreciation was beneath you, and I'm sorry I fired you because you stopped making things easy for me. I sat down. Outside my door, someone walked along the hall toward the shared bathroom. Pipes knocked inside the wall. Thank you, I said. Dad looked up, surprised by the lack of immediate forgiveness. I mean it. I believe you. But you're not coming back. No, even with full authority? I already have full authority. He glanced around my small office. You have 1 project. I have 3. The kitchen consultation had become a pantry redesign. Simone had referred a couple who wanted to rework the first floor of a narrow brick house. None of it made me secure. All of it was mine. Dad absorbed the number? That's good. Thank you. I could send you overflow. No. For God's sake, Caroline, it was an offer. It was work attached to you. I said no. His irritation flashed, then receded. Right. He folded the mock-up along its existing crease. What happens to us? It was the first question he had asked that did not contain a proposed answer. You can call me because you want lunch. He considered that as if lunch were a complicated new service. No project questions? No. No asking you to look at something? No. What would we talk about? I thought of coffee with Vanessa. We'll learn. Dad stood. The client chair wobbled when his hand brushed it. He crouched automatically, examined the leg, and tightened a loose screw with a coin from his pocket. You could have told me, he said. I was waiting to see if it killed anyone. He snorted. At the door, he looked at the lettering again. It's a good name. It was available. He nodded. Then he left without asking to come to the Bell dinner. Vanessa arrived Friday carrying white wine and flowers that looked as if she had fought the florist against adding glitter. She stood on the Bell's front walk, staring at the house. You changed almost nothing outside. That was the idea. I would have added planters. I know. She smiled nervously. How do I look? Like you're about to give a presentation. I changed 3 times. You're having dinner. With clients I disappointed. Former clients. That feels worse. I rang the bell. Graham opened the door in his wheelchair and looked at the wine. You may enter. Vanessa handed it to him. This is for Iris. Then you may still enter. Iris came from the kitchen and hugged me. She greeted Vanessa with a warm hand on her forearm, not quite a hug. Thank you for inviting me, Vanessa said. I'm glad you came. I owe you both an apology. Iris glanced toward the kitchen, where voices and dishes overlapped. Simone and her wife were there, along with the cabinet maker and the accessibility specialist. Nobody was paying attention to us. Vanessa continued anyway. I'm sorry I approved a design that ignored what you told us. I was trying to prove I could lead the project, and I made the project about me. Iris studied her. Thank you for saying that. I should have said it sooner. Yes. The answer was not cruel. It simply refused to do the rest of Vanessa's work for her. Vanessa nodded. I know. Graham lifted the bottle. Apology accepted provisionally, pending wine quality. Iris took Vanessa's arm. Come see the pantry? The left door stuck when she pulled it. Vanessa reached toward the handle, then stopped. Iris gave it the small upward lift and opened it. My father's craftsmanship, she said. It's perfect, Vanessa replied. No, it isn't. Vanessa looked at the uneven shelves, then smiled. No, it's yours. I watched Iris's face soften. We toured the house before dinner. Graham demonstrated the bathroom by turning a full circle, opening a drawer and announcing that he had contributed nothing to the decor. The bedroom still felt like the old study. The garden doors sat off-center from the kitchen island and looked entirely natural because houses did not care about renderings. Vanessa stood at the threshold while Graham rolled outside without slowing. You were right about the grade, she said quietly. The yard was right about the grade. You know what I mean. I do. She looked around the kitchen. Warm wood, muted green, aged brass. Not far from the palette she had first shown, though every choice had been remade with Iris. It looks like them, Vanessa said. That was better than saying it looked like us. Dinner spread from the dining room into the breakfast nook. Iris served roast chicken. Graham poured wine with the concentration of a chemist. Simone told a story about finding the notched beam and exaggerated my expression until everyone believed I had briefly considered moving the entire chimney by hand. I was calm, I said. You sat on a bucket and threatened the 19th century, she replied. Vanessa laughed harder than anyone. When the plates were mostly empty, Iris stood with her glass. I don't usually make speeches in my own house. You do, Graham said. They're just disguised as questions. She ignored him. This renovation asked us to admit that our lives had changed. Graham and I were not graceful about that every day. Speak for yourself, he said. I am speaking for the person who insisted he could continue using a second-floor bedroom indefinitely. He raised his glass. Iris looked at me. Caroline never made us feel foolish for wanting contradictory things. She preserved what mattered, changed what had to change, and knew the difference. Heat climbed my neck. She designed a home we can remain in, Iris continued. Simone and everyone here made it real. We are grateful. She raised her glass. To Caroline. Everyone repeated my name. Vanessa did too. She did not lower her eyes or turn the moment into proof of her own failure. She smiled at me across the table and let the compliment stay where Iris had placed it. I had thought recognition would feel like winning something back. It didn't. It felt quieter, like setting down a weight and discovering my hands still knew what to do without it. After dinner, we carried plates into the kitchen. Vanessa loaded the dishwasher incorrectly. I moved one bowl, she caught me. No work talk. This is spatial planning. Leave it. The spray arm will hit. She spun it by hand. It cleared the bowl with half an inch to spare. I stepped back. Fine. Her smile was unbearable. Iris wrapped leftover cake for us. Graham told Simone he planned to test the garden path after dessert, though he had already used it 6 times. One by one, everyone left through the front door. Vanessa and I lingered on the walk beneath the porch light. Dad told me about the sign, she said. I said no. I know. You knew before he asked? I told him not to put my name beside yours unless he understood why yours had been missing. That surprised me. What are you going to do at Mercer? Client development, materials, presentations when somebody else owns the plan. Who? Dad hired a designer with 15 years of experience. Good. She already told him his schedule is unrealistic. I like her. Vanessa laughed. Our cars were parked along the curb in opposite directions. Coffee Tuesday, she asked? Yes. No work. Limited plant discussion. She glanced back through the front window. Iris was closing the pantry door, giving it that familiar lift. Do you think we're okay? Vanessa asked. Not always. She nodded. Okay. It was the first time okay had been allowed to mean unfinished. She hugged me then, quickly enough that neither of us had to decide whether the past had earned it. When she let go, Graham called from inside. Are either of you planning to close this door? Vanessa reached for it. I have it, he said. She stepped aside. So did I. Graham rolled forward, caught the handle, and closed the door himself.